Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Sorry if you have a great conversation going on, but we can save that till afterwards. So we'll begin with the roll call.
Councilman Daley,
Here.
Councilman Duper,
Present.
Councilman Popescu, Mayor Pro Tempore Leonard,
Here.
Mayor Rigsby.
Here.
Thank you.
And we have a quorum, I believe, if I counted right. Okay, we'll begin as usual with our invocation Pledge of Allegiance led today by Councilman Duper. Please stand insofar as you're able. Are there any added or deleted items?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll proceed with the printed agenda. Are there any comments from the public on any non-agenda items? This is your chance for 3 minutes of fame. You'll have to do it 5 times to get 15 minutes. Okay, no takers. Then we move on to our item number 1. We have a proclamation, American Pharmacists Month. I have a lot of interest in pharmacy, having managed a pharmacy for 10 years, and I currently chair the formulary committee for Loma University Medical Center, so I deal with pharmacists all the time. Students, interns, I guess they call them residents. They don't call them interns. Only physicians use that term. But we have a proclamation here, October 2018, as American Pharmacists Month. Whereas pharmacy is one of the oldest of the health professions, not the oldest. The oldest is anesthesia, because God caused a deep sleep to come over Adam when he took the ribs out. So it was anesthesia, right?
Thereby ordaining and establishing the primacy of anesthesiology amongst the medical specialties.
I started it. Yeah, so the oldest profession that you've heard over the years was not correct. It's anesthesia. Okay, whereas pharmacy is one of the oldest of the health professions concerned with the health and well-being of all people, and whereas pharmacists are specifically educated with a focus and level of expertise on medication therapy, and are ideally suited to work collaboratively with other healthcare providers and patients. Whereas it's important to promote the profession of pharmacy as an essential healthcare provider. And whereas pharmacists provide both expertise and accessibility, which are crucial to patients. Whereas the American Pharmacists Association and the California Pharmacists Association have proclaimed October as American Pharmacist Month, and with the theme, Know Your Medicine, Know Your Pharmacist. And whereas our own Loma University School of Pharmacy is committed to education of pharmacists of the highest ethical and professional standards. Now, therefore, I, Mayor of the City of Loma Linda, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2018 as American Pharmacist Month in Loma Linda, and we remind citizens that pharmacists play a key role in their health and are an amazing resource. Now we have someone to accept this proclamation. Who wants to come forward? She has to get her proclamation, then she can speak.
Okay. Sorry, I've never been to one of these before.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Councilman. I would like to say how much I appreciate you and the City of Loma Linda for presenting this proclamation to us tonight. It's an honor to be here and to have the profession of pharmacy recognized by the city and for all the hard work that we have done. And as pharmacists and future pharmacists, we always strive to promote better health and medication safety. So we promise to continue to do so. And I also promise to continue to serve our patients and our community of Loma Linda and to the best that I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, but you didn't mention your name and your role.
Oh, yeah, sorry. My name is Janae, and I'm a second-year student at Loma Linda.
And you're what?
Second-year pharmacy student at Loma Linda.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from your administration here?
Yes, so I have my advisor, my
I think I
resident
know.
advisor.
That's a loaded question, but
And they're all here to support American Pharmacists Association, the student chapter. And so I have my president, my professor, my friend, my classmate, and my mentor, and my
I
resident.
think I know your mentor. I know her pretty well, actually. So it's nice to see you. It's been a couple of years since I've seen you. Thank you for coming. This is, and I know you could be making much more money if you were out in a pharmacy than teaching, so thank you for your dedication.
She's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And as I usually say, you're free to stay and watch our scintillating discussion, but if you have to leave, we'll understand.
It's exam week.
Okay.
Then leave. Go.
Okay, next is our consent calendar. It has exciting topics, and we usually just sail through it without comment, but our city manager would like to discuss items 4 and 5.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you probably noticed, is that the intersection of California and Redlands Boulevard have been open for 2 weeks now. And at the beginning, the project was budgeted at about 4.6 million, and it looked like it's going to come in under 4. And at the beginning, we planned to spend the remaining of the bond money, the RDA bond money, $2 million for the project, and the remaining 2.6 come from the traffic mitigation fund. In the meantime, we found out that we are qualified for Measure I Major Street Arterial, or MSART fund, from SBCTA, San County Transportation Authority. So we applied for it, we got it, and so now we would like to ask you to accept that money, and we already get reimbursed for that funding. And that can come out to be about 61.2% of the project, of which remaining 38.8% will come from the traffic mitigation fund. So that's item number 4, to accept the money. And item number 5, I'm going to start spending a little bit of that money for the money that we budget from the RDA bond. I would like to, we are awarded a contract for $250,000 for the water line and pavement rehabilitation at Daisy, Irish, Tulip, Astor, Star Street, and Campus. The project already started construction. Also, the pavement rehabilitation at various locations, including Barton Furnace Road, for $184,000. And I'm going to start doing some design for the street improvement and streetscaping at Anderson between probably Prospect to University Court, beautified it a little bit, and then pavement rehab by replay method at Con Drive, Price, Possum is a street subdivision that Oakwood, south of Barton Road. So that's item 4 and 5. Thank you.
So I have a question. The 1.72 million accepted, what does that leave for us before you're spending it on item 5? But how much does that leave of the $2 million that we started with?
We're looking at the beginning of the year, we have $2.3 million remaining in the RDA bond. So if, and subtract 554,000 that was remaining. So it's about 1.8.
So you're saying the 1.72 million completely reimbursed our expenditures from the 2.3 million?
No.
No, it's actually, we, out of $4 million at 61.2%, I should get about 2.4 million from SBCTA. So I'm not gonna spend the bond
Okay.
money at all.
So that was, then the question is, what is the balance then in that account that you were counting?
It's about it's 2.3 minus 5, so about 1.8 million.
And is that money now allocated for other projects, or just sitting there waiting for
It's,
other?
it's sitting there right
Okay.
now.
So how much did Loma Linda spend on the California, after everything is said and done? How much did we spend out of our funds?
Will be about, out of traffic mitigation fund, okay, is 38.8% out of 4 million.
And how much did City of Redlands spend? No, say it out loud, I want to hear it.
Nothing, but they did
Yeah,
give us a
there you
no-fee
go.
permit.
I just want our citizens to know that this was funded through federal and state funds and Loma Linda funds, and Redlands contributed nothing.
Yes. And none of it's general fund, by the way. So it's all this traffic
Yeah.
mitigation fund that we receive from, KB Home, Sea Countries and so forth.
So how much was spent out of our
So, 4 million.
RDA proceeds?
None.
None. So it's still there.
Yes.
That's the fund that just keeps coming back. It's like the 5 loaves and 2 fishes.
Okay, it's good insurance policy.
Time. 38.
a question.
Go ahead.
So,
Is
we
there,
spent about 1.5 million out of the traffic mitigation fund.
I've got to say, it is a project that came out beautifully. I mean, I've made a point, I've even circled around so I can negotiate that intersection, and it is significantly improved. It's a well-done project. Having said that, is there any relationship between items 4 and 6.A in the agenda in terms of funding?
Not on 6.A, but it's on 6.C.
Okay, describe that relationship then.
Is I'm gonna use the $20,000 out of item 5 to award the contract for item 6C.
Is it safe to say you're ramping up your rehabilitation
Yes,
plan, so we're doing more
yes.
and less because of this extra money?
Yes, and what's happening is when we do replacing the pipeline, the water line, and a lot of time is we replace the water line and we just pave back the trench.
Yeah.
And since we have money, would like to grind and overlay the street, so this way the street is completed.
Good,
So-
because it's really annoying me on my street here lately
Which one?
with that Edison project. And then, since we're telling stories, so when do we inspect when they cover that trench back up at all?
Yes, our inspector inspected, yes.
It's just, and I'm okay navigating it, but just as you get to that hook where we have the little
Yes.
jetty that comes out that we had to put the signs up because people were hitting it, there seems to be this rough, high-level piece, so you gotta kind of hit it just right, and I can see
Okay.
somebody maybe launching off of that.
I will
Maybe
ask my
we need to-
inspector to double check that.
Somebody take a look at that
Yes.
part,
Yeah, what was the point of the jetty?
to slow people down.
By wrecking their car? It works.
It works.
Doesn't that path come down from under the power lines? Doesn't it cross right there? Or-
It's just on the other side of that,
So I don't know if they thought maybe that's a slowing
to slow it down for that.
for eventually if people go across to a future, the park or something on the other side, I'm not
But they,
sure.
when they're plating the trench, they put a real kind of a uneven, there's a plate that kind of sticks up, so it's got quite a lot of asphalt. And I mean, it's right there, so
Yeah, you can really see that jetty has a lot of notches on its belt.
Yeah.
As you drive by, you can just see all these tire marks all along it. And I was looking at them, I almost hit it because I was looking at it so mesmerized by it.
It was the leftover anesthetics.
Mayor, if we're still on consent calendar, I'd like to pull item 2 with a few questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. And I alerted Deanna just before we started that I had a few questions. She knows me well enough to know I'll have them from time to time. But I feel bad I didn't ask her before the meeting. I'm looking at page 1, Delta Dental. I mean, we're paying, you know, a few $1,000s to them. That happens to be a company I know a little bit about. Is this to pay dental benefits to all for all city employees, or what is this?
It's for the city employees, to those that elect to subscribe to the
Okay.
program. There is the HMO one and then the PPO one.
Okay.
So that's why you see two different.
And then we give them a list of potential providers that are part of this program.
Correct.
Okay. And as I paged through the demands register, there are multiple entries regarding Southern California Edison. And I think I've asked you that before. I get confused every time I see that. Every 2 or 3 pages, I see another few tens of thousands of dollars going to Edison. Can you help me understand why we have so many Edison entries?
We don't get a master list with all the connections. So we have different connections for different services. So we have water services that, like the
Water's
water
not
pumps.
Edison, though.
Oh, yes, we pump the water from the wells in Samuel up the hill to the reservoir, and that's the one that you see 10,000.
So
I'm
those
not a
will be-
big Edison fan, so that's why I'm
Yeah.
penetrating a little bit here.
Yes, and then we have all the like streetlight connections, the lighting connections, then even for the landscape maintenance district for the irrigation systems, we have connections.
And those are all billed independently.
Most of them are, we might get a lump sum bill for certain areas, but they don't come as one big master bill.
And I haven't totaled this out, but we're paying tens of thousands of dollars per month.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah, the
When
big
you pay
ones
the
are
water
the
bill,
water.
you're essentially paying
For the pump.
electricity. Because we're sucking it out of the aquifer for free, you know, we have to pay for the electricity to get it uphill,
Can't
but
take that much electricity.
it does.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
well,
How much we
According
spend-
to Edison,
How much do we spend on pumping water per year? It's millions. Millions.
And then I think the
it's a
arsenic
racket,
treatments.
I'm telling you. For
Have you
all my
ever-
colleagues on the dais that are anti-tax, I'm anti-Edison. I mean,
Have-
I think they,
One of the things that I was most impressed by at a museum,
Yes on 6, and then it won't hurt so bad when you pay your.
Yeah,
baloney,
exactly.
baloney. I don't
Yes.
buy that, but anyway, go ahead.
yeah, we're not selling, yeah. Have you ever been at one of these museum displays where they have like an arm ergometer and you have to try to light a 100-watt bulb?
Yeah.
It's hard. So when you realize how much energy it takes just to light one bulb, then you have a little bit more respect for Edison.
Not much. When I contact them to help me with whatever issue I've got, takes 3 weeks to get them out, and then they fiddle around and charge me hundreds of dollars, so. Anyway, that's my issue.
So you're a Tesla man?
No, I'm in therapy. We'll get through it.
Anybody at home probably just saw your lights go off.
What's that?
Your lights probably just went off at your home right now.
Probably. On page 4,
By the
Deanna.
way, not to add fuel to the fire,
Yeah.
but you see that the legislature just created a new law, and the governor signed it, which allows Edison to charge us for all the forest fires that they may cause. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, that's true. If there's, if there's stuff that's caused in the wildland fires, right, it gets charged. How does that work? Jeff, do you know about that?
I don't know about the new legislation, but they look for cause and origin, and
Oh, no, no,
a
no,
lot of
there's-
times it's back to Edison lines, but
No, I swear to God, look it up, there was new legislation this last session, and the governor signed it, which allows Edison to charge us for the wildland fires. It's really cool. Welcome to California.
Well, for all the chastisement we issue towards the state government, the current governor's leaving with a $6.2 billion
By raising taxes. There's no credit for that.
Yeah, no, there's no free ride.
There's no miracle there.
Yeah, I agree.
The spending went up about 40% on his watch,
Oh,
so the
no,
fact
no,
that
no,
taxes went up 50%,
Yeah,
he doesn't
no.
get any credit from
No,
us.
No, I don't agree with your numbers, but anyway. Deanna, on page 4. We've got a $1,500 bill to Smith Bird Industrial Elect regarding well and booster service repair. I have no clue what that is.
Yes, what happening is our pumps and well and the reservoir controlled by called SCADA system, which is like electronic that when the water at the reservoir lower, then it tell the pump to turn on and pump the water into the reservoir. So all this, and we have 6 well and we have 6 reservoirs, so all
Right,
this
right.
communication and have to be maintained. And this Birch Elect, they're the one who maintain the system.
So is this a technology bill?
Yes, yes, this is a company, the name of the company that does this.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Hold on. So I had to Google it, but here it is. California bill that would allow investor-owned utilities to pass along wildfire-related costs to ratepayers was signed by the governor earlier this week. The bill has been criticized by some consumer groups who charge it as a bailout for California's largest electricity utilities. CAL FIRE has pinned the blame on some of these utilities for at least 16 of last year's devastating wildfires. So instead of the utility paying for the cost, now they just push the cost right off on us. And it was signed.
Interesting. On page 5,
I fear that our next governor will make us pine for Jerry Brown.
boy, I've got so many comebacks on that, but we'll pass on it for now. California highway adoption, $325. We're talking small
Yes.
change here. But what caught my attention is litter removal from Mountain View Avenue.
Yes.
I assume that's the off-ramp, on-ramp?
Correct, that's the company that we hire.
What are we getting for $325? Because
They-
I see junk on those
I
off-ramps all the time.
can't resist. We're going to name the off-ramps after you.
Well, I'll be out there picking up the trash then, appropriately so.
Yes, sir, they come out twice a week, pick up trash.
Twice a week?
Yes.
You're kidding.
No, sir, and you can see the bag, they actually left the bag out on the freeway, so the Caltrans will come pick it up. They are responsible for pick up the trash and put in the plastic bag next to the freeway, and the Caltrans responsible for picking those up.
My concern is this is a school of the blind that are out there trying to pick up litter because I continue to see a lot of it.
Can I suggest, I know it's not agendized, but can we have adopt a on-ramp program and assign the Daly family? We'd save $325.
It's worse than that. Worse than that is Caltrans specified the company that can work on the freeway. So that's why they call it highway. It's a company that get permit from Caltrans that we have to pay for it to maintain it.
I'm okay with it as long as they pick the trash up, but anyway, you know, Mountain View is now our primary entrance to the city. I mean, we have other entrances, obviously. And I just get frustrated with the tumbleweeds and the coffee cups and everything else in between. But as the mayor's pointed out, evidently that's my problem. I need to get out there and start picking stuff up myself.
You're the solution.
I'm not sure about that. I'll meet you every Sunday morning. We'll get out there and start picking stuff up. Yeah.
I'll match you hour for hour.
So I don't, I don't know if you'd be agreeable to this, Ron, but Jarb has a schedule, so maybe we do a spot check. Maybe if you get the schedule from him, you can drive by there and see if you see him out there, because I'm all about testing our vendors too, to make sure that we're actually getting our money's worth, and
Yeah,
maybe they're
yeah.
not, you know what I mean?
And I think that's the point. I drive to a variety of cities in Southern California, and some of them have crap all over the entrances and exits, and others, you never see anything. I defy you to go to Pasadena and see a bunch of junk along their on-ramps or off-ramps. So that's the point that I'm getting to. Clean Street Incorporated, $3,600 for the last month.
That's street sweeping, sir.
Yeah. That's a lot of money.
And that's only once a month.
You would rub the broom to the nubs if you tried to do it without them.
I'm not complaining. I just wanted to confirm that I was interpreting this correctly. Who is Flyers Energy LLC?
They provide gasoline.
That's who we buy gasoline from?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You know, in all seriousness, this is why we're in a good financial position, is I think uniformly across this dais, all five of us are concerned with how we spend money in this town. And so, you know, we give it a little brevity, but really it is good conversation and good stuff, so. We don't always agree on Sacramento.
And a lot of them are public works.
And then on page 8, we have a payment to Loma Linda Firefighters Association, and where was it? We have another one.
On the Loma Linda Fires Association, they actually, through a payroll deduction, they contribute to the association, and then we just write a check to them.
Okay. ICMA Retirement Corporation, 38,000.
And those are the employee contributions they elect to deduct from their payroll?
Okay, so this comes directly from their payroll deduction and is fed into.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Textrata, 16,000, switches for security.
That's
looking
part
at
of
Conrad now.
the camera system.
What's that?
The CCT camera upgrade, that's the switches that operate that.
Yeah, and the city,
16,000 though in a month?
no. This is
It's
the
a one-time.
contract that you awarded the contract to this company a couple months ago, and now we're paying them, so,
That's not a recurring charge, that's a one-time.
yes.
And what are we paying them for?
Physical hardware, switches, computers.
And so when I'm looking at $16,000, how, what's the timetable on that? Is that per quarter, per month, per
That's
year?
one time.
One time?
Yeah, we're installing additional security cameras throughout the city, the parks, the water
Okay.
production facilities,
Okay.
and that's the
Okay.
switches back here in the
Those
room that
switches
handle
don't-
all of
That, that makes sense.
So have what, like a
Okay.
3-year lifespan?
Well,
Well, I'm sorry, in Loma Linda, so like a 30-year lifespan?
we stretch them to about 8 years, but yeah, and then there's some tech.
We still have AOL accounts here.
Okay, I am done. I have full confidence in Deanna, so
Is that a motion for the consent calendar?
I'll move the consent
I'll
calendar.
second. I just had a quick question on 6A,
Go ahead.
actually 6B. I'm glad to see we're actually striping the tennis courts to involve pickleball, but what about the netting for the pickleball? How do we address that?
The way they came to us is they will bring their own netting,
Okay, every time
Yes.
they want to play?
yes.
Okay.
Because at first, they want us to repave, restripe the tennis court, and we said, no, we have basketball court at Almadigno Park, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna resurface and pave
It's
the
just going to
basketball
be
court.
pickleball only.
Yes.
Oh, I see, but so we're not restriping the one at Leonard Daly Park?
Yeah, we're doing both.
No, the one that Leonard Bailey Park will be restriped as a tennis court, resurfacing it
Oh,
as a
but not
tennis court.
pickleball?
No, sir.
Oh.
And is
because
there
we have
anyone
enough-
from pickleball here? Because I got lobbied very hard on this, and I want
No.
to feel a little love from the people we're granting this to.
Are we not doing it for those tennis courts because there's just so much use for tennis?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
We'll refer them to Channel 3.
Jarb actually got pushed back a little bit, Ovi.
They can, and then
From the
you
tennis
can take a
players?
bow.
So
yeah.
what we decided is he's gonna do just a pickleball only.
Two of them, two court for the
And
pickleball.
depending on what was put out to the group, was depending on how well that performs and how well they maintain that could lead to future stuff.
No, I think it's a great idea. I mean, pickleball has become a big deal, and I'm convinced of that from all the calls and lobbying I've received. I just thought that people would be here in their pickleball outfits and rackets to be excited about this, but anyway, it's a good thing.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the consent calendar, and after we're done voting, we'll see if we even need a consent calendar, since every item gets pulled. So,
Should be noted, Dr. Daly, that we do get the demands register in our own mailbox
That
a
you do
week
what?
before the rest of us, and we've been doing it for you've been on the council for 8 years, so maybe by now you would think that you would, look at that stuff ahead of time, and you
well, he
can.
did, but he had
I'll challenge you on that.
He had
I do my
questions.
homework.
Yeah.
I've looked at
Well,
it ahead of
I
time.
know.
He had questions.
And that's great, but I think, anyway, sometimes it's good to ask questions if you want to make a point, and I think the point you're trying to make was that you don't know, or we're spending too much. I'm not quite sure.
No, you can question my motives, you can't question my homework.
Well, like I said, I think there's times where you can look at the stuff, and the staff is here 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, and ask them to your heart's content. And if you're not satisfied with the answer, you bring in the public, and all of us can then question whether they're spending their money wisely, so.
We can agree to disagree.
I'll stand for the First Amendment. The right to seek redress of grievance. Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the consent calendar. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that's approved unanimously. Next, we have old business, Council Bill O-2018-06, second reading, and I think I have to leave the room. And you. So this is a leftover,
Sorry, Obi, we're going to ask some questions.
and we can't say anything about it.
This is Council Bill 2018-06. Staff is recommending that you approve the second reading by roll call vote as it stands.
Okay, I think we don't necessarily call for the public, but if anybody here wants to speak on it, we'd be glad to hear what you have to say. Anybody have any discussion on this proposed? No? Okay, Council.
Hold on 1 second. This is to rezone the corner of Barton and Mountain View. So it's basically like office commercial space now. And so this would also eliminate the future use of potentially any like restaurants or things like that, or no?
Let me clarify a little bit. Over time, that is zoned and is designated in the general plan and both in the zoning as a commercial space for retail commercial activities. What's happened over the years is office and administrative uses have moved in. In that zone, you're only allowed 20% of the floor space in office or administrative. Everything else must be retail. Since we've evolved way beyond that, for whatever reason, over time, it would be kind of silly to tell everybody to pack up their things and move out. So the rezoning is to bring the zoning into conformance with the actual use. So we're adjusting that so that office and administrative use is allowed, and then we don't have to send code enforcement and have everybody get thrown out of their offices.
Okay. I knew that. That was just for purpose of the public. Georgia, any thoughts? Okay.
Councilman Daly, would you have anything to say? I'm good. Good, okay. What's the pleasure of the council?
I'll move it.
Second.
This would be by reading by title only?
Yes.
That would be the proper motion, right? Okay.
It's entitled an ordinance, excuse me, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Loma Linda amending Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.40, Section 17.40.10, purpose and intent for the commercial and industrial zones. Is zone map change number P 18-13 and development code amendment number P 18-014. And you may vote. And it passes. Thank you very much.
I presume you finished with item 8. Okay, then we'll go to new business. Amend and extend the city's solid waste and recyclables collection service contract with CR&R. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The background is back in November of 2007, the City Council awarded a 7-year plus 3 one-year option for the solid waste and recyclable collection services to Republic Services. And then in February of 2017, CR&R bought the City of Loma Linda contract from Republic Services. Since then, CR&R have been continuing to do the improvement of the service and been doing a good job for collecting the solid waste and recyclable. So so they've been doing it between Republic and CR&R. They have been doing it for 10 years. So now it's time for renewal of the contract. So we have an option of either go out to rebid or renegotiate with the current provider. So the staff came to the city council, and at that time, the city gave us the direction to see if we can renegotiate the contract with CR&R, which we did. And so we contacted CR&R, and they agreed to extend the contract. So we have a couple key point of concern for extension of the contract. First, we want to make sure that they still comply with the state mandate, which include they have to retain 60% of recyclable of all the trash, and outreach, education, and do prepare an annual report. CR&R will provide educational outreach component, which is to go out to apartment businesses to make sure that they recycle and prepare the annual contract. The contract time for extension, and it will be for initial 10 years period with 2 5-year extension, and to maintain the quality of services, including we get the new card for all 3, the blue one for recycle, the green one for green waste, and the black one for trash. So by April of next year, we should all get a new trash can. Got to twist the arm a little bit, but. Okay, and also have ability to address the upcoming legislation requirement, which is, some of you have been, go to their facility, to the aerobic digestion facility that capable of meeting the state next mandate. So right now, the contract is just to extend the existing contract for the next 10 years. But when the state put in a mandate, they're capable of doing that, and we have to come back and adjust the fee to make sure that we include that. So, and the biggest thing is to maintain the existing rate that they have. The only option that they can increase the rate is the CPI, or Consumer Price Index. And if Consumer Price Index increase, then they have opportunity to increase. But if it decreased like 4 or 5 years ago, then, or stay the same, they have to keep it the same. So what we did is we compare our monthly rate to our surrounding city. For single family, as you can see, Chino, the maximum is about $31.27 per month. The minimum, which is us, at $19.07 per month. The average is about $25.27. So we still remain the lowest for the single family trash. So staff recommend that we extend the contract to CRNR for the next 10 years with the option of 2 5-year option. And I would like to commend CRNR staff, Baleen. She's been doing a very good job, work with our staff and work with apartment managers and like the duplex, the fourplex, to make sure that they recycle. So, and the most important thing is submit the report to the state, and we have been doing a good job, and we pass every year. So, the staff from CRNR are here to answer any question. I'm ready for any question also. Thank you.
I have a question. When this came up 11 years ago, there were different proposals from different companies, and some of them, for want of a better descriptor, gave a good deal to single-family residences and charged a lot to businesses, and others were the other way around. And I can see here that you're comparing us to other communities for 3-yard commercial and 40-yard roll-off temps. Are there, in the opinion of the staff, any hidden gouges in this contract that, you know, that possibly would offload the expenses on a business, for example? And I noticed that we're the only ones without a 4-yard commercial bin. Is that because we just don't do 4-yard bins?
For some reason, we don't have any 4-yard.
Yeah, in your contract, you just have the 3-yard and then a 6-yard for commercial.
So
Okay, so everybody else has a 4-yard and we just don't have one. Is that true? It's not a problem, I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, there are a lot of different numbers. You know, when you look at this thing, there's a lot of stuff. And I don't see them side by side, our old rate compared to the new rate.
No, this is the old rate. This is,
Not changing.
we're not changing the rate.
So none of the rates are changing.
Correct. All we're doing is extend the contract.
10 years.
Okay. And there's not, like you said, in the past there were 2% annual adjustments?
That's only the CPI. If the CPI, correct me if I'm wrong, if the CPI increase, they will get an increase.
Yeah,
But the
going
city-
forward, but in the past, it was 2% regardless of
No, sir,
CPI.
it's still CPI.
Okay, because
Well-
we always got 2% a year.
Well, we're all going to get hit with the new waste requirements anyway, so,
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to happen.
Okay.
But you guys are still the only place with the anaerobic digestion facility, right?
Yeah.
And do you have a separate contract with the university?
You want to come up?
Or how does that work? Do they piggyback off of ours?
No, they use our
They have to
Yeah,
use ours?
11 years ago, it was, they used our, whatever we negotiated.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could have sworn when we did the tour down there that they talked about separate collection for them.
Good evening, Mayor Isby, members of the council. My name is Dean Ruffridge, and I'm with CRNR. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and to answer your question. The Loma Linda University, as well as the Veterans Hospital federal facility, they piggyback on your franchise. Again.
Excuse me, could you pull the mic up towards your, thank you.
I'm Dean Ruffridge, whoa, and I think you've already met Belen and Milford. I think you've got two of our finest staff right here in Loma Linda taking care of business every day for you. We're in complete agreement with your staff report. We've had some good negotiation sessions with your staff and your staff's consultant, and gotten through some difficult points, and we're excited about the new franchise agreement. All of this contract will keep the city in full compliance with all state laws and all California Cal Recycle mandates. Unlike the old contract, the one that we're currently under, this new contract is a program-based contract. In other words, Cal Recycle wants you as a city to develop and implement programs. And with programs comes diversion. And that's what Belen's been doing since her hire last year. She's been implementing recycling programs, organics programs, educating at the Chamber of Commerce and different organizations. Your city has been and will always be in compliance with new state legislation such as AB 341, which was passed a number of years ago by the state and signed by the governor, which is mandates commercial recycling. AB 1821 or 1826 is their organics commercial program, which has already been implemented in your city. 1594 eliminates the use of green waste at landfills for cover. That's the basis for our building of our anaerobic digester, and we've got about $75 million invested down the road here, about 20 minutes, and it's there for you should you decide to choose to do that, and you can actually wait almost a year if you want to do that. You don't have to implement that program right now, but you will need to do something by the end of next year.
Did we get a cost projection on that? Because I think that was part of our.
They did give it to me, but I didn't want to include it at this
Right.
time, but I have.
I think the intent, Jarb, if that's correct, is to, in the first quarter of next year, to take a look at rates for additional programs, and if there is an additional cost, and if there's a need for a Prop 218 hearing, to do it at that time. There's a new Senate bill called 1383 that was signed by the governor. It's completed now, just last week, and he's signing a lot of bills right now, as you know. But that basically mandates 75% diversion. It's huge. It's a 75% diversion. We've been going on this 50% mandate. And it also mandates residential food scrap collection. So what we've proposed to your staff and what we've proposed to the city of Loma Linda is a co-collection program, should you wish to choose it next year, that collects green waste and food scraps from residential in the same container. We're probably probably the only one in Southern California that can do it, and it's being done in Northern California quite a bit. The other thing that's really important in this new contract is that it requires CR&R to divert at least 65% of all C&D, construction and demolition. And that's not in the current contract, but that is required under Cal Recycle and also required under the new green building code, construction code that most, I think, cities have adopted. As your city manager said, it requires that CR&R replace all of the residential carts in town. There's about 12,000 maybe. Some of them are little different shades of color, and some of them are waste management from 20 years ago, and there's a few from here and from there. So you'll have all new residential carts, I think by April 1st of next year. The other thing that we will do is we've been doing it, Belen and Milford have a lot of eyes on your city, but we've been going through and replacing and upgrading almost all your commercial containers. So the bins, when we took over in March of last year, were a little scratched up, let's say. And so we've been doing a lot of that, and all of the vehicles that we use in your city and the neighboring city have all either been upgraded or will be replaced by the first of the year. And by the way, all of those trucks are running on natural gas, so they're a clean fuel. As your city manager said, you have a very, very favorable residential and commercial rate, and I think you can be proud to say that you've probably got the lowest rates in all of San Bernardino County. Congratulations on your negotiations 10 years ago. We feel comfortable with that. We feel comfortable with continuing that. We do not anticipate coming to you or asking for more money for any special case whatsoever. And again, as your city manager said, you've been reviewed by Cal Recycle on an annual basis. This last review that you had was quite extraordinary. And I think with Milford and Boleyn's assistance, Cal Recycle has used the city of Loma Linda with several of your neighboring cities as the example to do the right thing. You're doing outstanding. I know Boleyn goes to your commercial businesses and asks them to recycle, and she's had an amazing result. They accept it. They can actually save some money by recycling because the recycling commercial bins are less money than a trash bin, if you will. I'd like to just congratulate you, your staff, and especially the residents and the business of this city for doing their fair share. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll do my best.
I definitely have questions. So you say there are 12,000 bins. That means there are roughly 4,000 residential?
About 3,800, yes.
Okay. So my calculation is that if we had not negotiated well in 2007, and if we had gone with a staff recommendation at that time, it was $6 per month more than we ended up paying for residential. Just the residential customers alone, we have saved in 11 years $3.2 million compared to what we would have spent with a staff recommendation for renewal with our prior provider. So that negotiation has paid that much money into the pockets of the people of Loma Linda. It's about $800 per resident over 11 years. It really adds up. So I accept your congratulations for our
You've done a
negotiating
remarkable
well.
job. Very, very good job.
Just a general question. I guess it's subject to 1% per year plus CPI. Is that what I see as the rate? Increases?
It's just a CPI.
Oh, I thought I saw 1
No.
plus CPI.
No, that would be a favorable change on our part if you'd like.
Yeah. Don't insist on it.
New rate is 1 plus CPI. What am I missing? It's on page,
Well, what they do is multiply it
40.
1 point, like 0.02%, if it's a 2%, they do the 1 in front of the decimal, that's how they get the new rate. Is that what you're looking at?
well,
Yeah, so it's multiplied, the current rate is, if it's a 2%, it's multiplied by 1.02 to come up with the new rate.
so if California really goes into a major recession because they spend more money than they can tax us, and CPI goes up to 6%, every resident's gonna eat that 6%?
Yeah, I think with any utility or any, yes.
Okay.
We hope that doesn't happen, all of us.
Yeah, just to put those numbers that I was talking about into stark terms, we negotiated $16 and change, and the recommendation from the staff was $22 and change. So it would have been a huge difference in what we paid over the years. And when it happened, I was a new councilman. I had only been on the council for about a year, and it was before any of you were involved. And I was wondering why the staff would agree to such a high rate. And it turns out, at some time you think, is there somebody on the take? You've got all these kind of paranoid ideations about what people are up to. But it turns out that part of the advantage to the city is that we get something like 20% franchise fee to cover the damage that your trucks cause to our streets or whatever we want to call it. But there's essentially a 20% take on the part of the city. So advice to members of city councils and residents is be careful if your city staff go for the highest contract, because they want to get 20% of a higher number to augment their revenue. And that's what was happening. And that was before Jarb's time as well. It was before Jarb's time, his predecessor.
Just wondering if this was an episode of The Sopranos and you might have got them confused.
It seemed like it, it's, hey. It'd be like, just like New Jersey.
I'm curious what the cost would be if we wanted to opt into the program that you guys do down there. That's what I see as coming, and I want to kind of be prepared ahead of time for that.
I can give you a ballpark on that if you'd like me, Mr. City Manager. We have, I believe, 14 municipalities signed up on the anaerobic digestion plan, and we have 8 of those are in Riverside County, near our anaerobic digester, and they average around $2 per month per household. Now, in Orange County, we have about 4 or 5 cities that are signed up, and about the same number that have approved it, just not flipped the switch, if you will. And that's a little bit more because of the transportation costs. Because of your close proximity to that anaerobic digester, my guess is we'll have a direct haul. We wouldn't be transferring, so you would not have a transfer cost. So you would be on the low end of the scale as our other Riverside cities would be, and also our other city here in San Bernardino County.
Just had a
everybody else. Go ahead.
clarification question. So when this contract came up for renewal, the staff basically has a discretion to either continue it or put it out for a bid? Okay, and it was your recommendation that you renegotiate it and just continue it for 10 years? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
2 or 3 questions. This is a 7-year plus 3 1-year options for a total of 10 years.
No, sir, that was previous contract with CR&R.
With Republic.
I'm
I mean,
looking at the staff
with
report, so I'm
Republic.
confused.
This is 10 plus 2 5-year options.
You're looking at the background, that was when we awarded the contract to
Oh, you're
Republic
right, it
Services.
is on the background. Okay, so it's 10, because that was part of my question, is then we have a +5 and a +5?
We have an option that we can extend it twice for 5 year each.
Okay. 10 years is a long time. Is that a standard contract for you with cities?
Yes, sir. 10 years is pretty much the minimum
Because you
that we
come
would go
back
with.
in 10 years, I doubt any of us are going to be here. I won't, I know that. And then you go +5, +5. What are the conditions for the +5?
The conditions are totally at the sole discretion of the city council. The
So
typical,
you're not going to change the terms of
No.
the agreement?
now, the reason for a 10-year base is so that we can depreciate those assets we're going to invest in your city. We're going to invest a little over $1 million in residential carts, and without a rate of,
Say that again, how much in residential carts?
We're gonna
And-
invest-
And carts, we're talking about the bins.
barrels,
Yeah, okay.
barrels, carts,
Yeah.
toters.
okay. I just
So we're going to
wanna be sure.
we're going to invest a little over $1 million in the city of Loma Linda on all new residential carts. At
By
no-
April of 19?
Yes, at no cost to the city and no cost to the resident. And allow us to depreciate that over a period of time. The longer the period of time, the less impact it is to us.
Sure.
So 10 years is typically a typical amount of years, a number of years, so we can depreciate without asking for any special reimbursement.
And so at the end of 10 years, either your company or the city has the option to bail out.
At the end of 10 years, they're fully depreciated.
Okay.
So a wise city council, I didn't say this.
Well, that
But
would.
a wise city council in 10 years would
That's
not.
an
Hopefully a wiser city
oxymoron.
council.
Don't be saying oxymorons.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty smart. I'm concerned about the poor guys up here with me.
This guy's pretty sharp right here, I'll
Yeah,
tell you. You know?
I agree. I agree. Okay, go ahead.
So at the end of 10 years, they're fully depreciated. That cost goes away to CR&R. And a wise city council and an even wiser city manager would say, hey, listen, you've had your 10 years. Maybe I can get something else. So that's why there's those options, and it's solely your option. It's a wise move.
So it's at the end of 10 years, there's 1 + 5 where the city and your company make a decision. And then at the end of that 5 years, there's another. I'm assuming, based on the bins that I have at my house, that within 10 years, we're going to need another bin. No?
No, I'll tell you why.
Because there's trucks that are pretty hard on those bins.
Those darn trucks, I know. It's funny, some of the carts, we've got carts out in South Orange County that have been out for 19 years, and they're still being used. It depends a lot on the resident, how they use them, how they're abused.
Throw anything away?
Pardon me? Yeah. Well, you know, we service some residents that maybe only use their house 1 or 2 months out of the year. And the months that they don't use them, our carts are stored in the garage. You know, it's fine. They don't go bad. And then we have some residents, we know we're going to be replacing so many every year because they may get abused, they may catch on fire, my wife might back over them, you know, something like that might happen. And so we do have a number of replacements every year. So over a 10-year period, we're probably going to be replacing 20% of them.
So if I'm, as a citizen, if there's a hole punctured or the wheel stop turning or
Good
whatever,
question.
you would replace that at request?
At request, at no charge.
Okay. A question for you is the big bins around the cities, in the parks and here at the one we have right up here in this city, are those part of this contract?
Close your ear, it's free for us.
What's that?
It's free for us. They provide those services like the
City services.
Okay, so when I drive past the bin right up here in our parking lot,
Yes,
and one of the lids is laying down on the street,
yes,
who's responsible for that?
they are.
Has that been repaired yet?
Which one? Yes.
It was the 6-yarder, and we repaired it the very next day when we saw it in the street. No one reported it, but I drove to the parking lot, saw it,
Okay.
and it was fixed.
Jarb
Okay,
gets really
good.
angry when he's slamming those things, and
Yeah.
sometimes they just come out.
I know. Okay,
You know
Thank
what,
you.
if I could add one thing, Mr. Daly. We've got a remarkable facility right next door across the border, as number of you know, in Colton.
Yeah.
And that facility is in due for its need for some major repairs. The previous owner let it go pretty bad. And Milford is negotiating with the city manager next door and their public works director and so forth to upgrade that facility, build a new office building, a maintenance shed. So we're talking about several $1 million of investment there. That, I hate to say this, but we need trash to support that, if that makes sense.
It
So
makes
We
sense.
need contracts, yes.
Well, and I can tell you, Milford can negotiate anything, so you've got a good representative in him.
We're very pleased with both of these young
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, his wife told me to tell you that, so it's
So you know it's a lie. To piggyback on my other question I had earlier about the university, and maybe representative here from the university can kind of help us out with that. I don't know, if you have any experience, or are you guys happy with their service? Yeah,
Oh, that I wouldn't know.
all right. It's ju-
I'm not in the maintenance area, I'm in
I actually, let me answer your question.
And I would ask the same thing of the VA facility if they were here too, since they are big partners.
Okay, so your question about the university is, they do use, so they piggyback off you guys, but they do have a farm, they call it the farm, and it's over by the academy. So they pick up They have a unique situation. They pick up their own trash and recycling from all the university buildings. They take it back, they sort through it, they're pulling out their own metal, their own recyclables, and they're trying to make a profit off of it. So whatever they get, the rest goes to us. So pretty much we're only getting trash. Because they're cleaning up most of it, but they are source separating and picking up. They do have their own composting site, but we will be, they did go out to the site, and we are gonna be taking the food, because they can't have it sitting out. So we are working with them and all the housekeeping, and we actually have another tour coming up where we'll be taking more staff that is gonna be involved in that.
Might be a good study for your anaerobic facility to feed it lots of food from the hospital here.
Yes.
So the other thing is just a comment, and that was a couple of us got a tour of their facility last year. And, you can be a conservative, you can be a Republican in this state, you can care about finances, money, law, and you can also care about the environment. And I think we are all very impressed with the facility that you have down there. And, in terms of our health and what an impact that we will have in this state, those are the type of programs that I like to see. So kudos to you guys on your facility. It was very impressive. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I was just hoping that when you actually start getting the food from the hospital, because it's all vegetarian and high roughage, be prepared for a spike in gas production. I know when people eat it, it does that.
With that, I'll make a motion. My motion is to accept the contract proposal.
Okay, any further discussion? There's a motion and a second. Hearing none, is there any opposition? Hearing none, it's approved unanimously. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Good job, thank you.
Okay, item 10, Council Bill R-2018-35, supporting healthy alternatives for default beverages.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Councilman. I'm here for items number 10 and 11, and it's diabolical on Jarb's part to have the fat kid do the healthy speeches. But the item number 10, Council Bill number R-2018-35, is a resolution supporting healthy alternatives in children's menus for drink options. The resolution encourages local restaurants that have and offer a children's meal as a package with a beverage included, that the default beverage selection is either milk or water, to help address the epidemic of obesity, and especially in children, and the opportunity to set an example by leadership, by the city, urging and encouraging restaurants in our community to adopt this behavior. And staff recommends approval.
Question. I know we had representatives here, I believe it was from the School of Public Health earlier. Does this meet what their request was?
Their original request is that this is an ordinance requiring compliance with this, and that actually the original draft of the ordinance had penalties and enforcement options and everything else. This is a voluntary as it's drafted now, is a resolution with voluntary participation and encouragement from the city to engage in that activity.
Voluntary on the part of the consumer or the provider?
Of the restaurant.
Okay.
So rather than us passing a law that says the restaurant must serve milk and water, and should they not do that, then there's penalties and enforcement, we are passing a resolution that encourages the restaurant to do that, and
It
that
should
we
be
are
noted that the
supportive of that.
state already passed legislation that requires it as part of law. So the state did create a law that sets a standard now. So this resolution is basically in support of.
In harmony with the state?
Yes.
Okay. I'm anxious to see if we have representatives that want to debate this.
I'm just wondering whether, and I don't know if it's something that can be added to the resolution or maybe something that can be discussed later on, but given that it's a voluntary process, I would like to see some effort to incentivize restaurants to follow through with it. So maybe, I know we've talked about it, but never maybe as a council set up some sort of system where if you do comply with this, we get recognition from the city, you can put a plaque up. So maybe the businesses can basically show off the fact that they're following some of the guidelines that we as a city have implemented. So I don't know if there's something that we can discuss at a later time, or something that has to be put into resolution.
I don't know if it needs to be included in the resolution. I think the motion, and the city attorney will stop me if I'm way off base, but the motion to approve that could have that, the direct staff to create some program to recognize them, because that's a great idea, that there's some plaque or some notification. There's probably 12, 15 restaurants, somewhere in there.
And I can be happy to
12.
work with the Chamber of
Yeah.
Commerce, and maybe Chamber can do something like that.
I think that would be a great way to encourage that.
It should be noted that in the research for this, though, the Chamber of Commerce was sitting in a position where they actively opposed any type of ordinance. Obviously now it's negated because of the state law. But if this were to show up as a ordinance, the Chamber of Commerce did their own independent polling of their members and came back with a resounding.
No, I understand that. I'm just
So-
trying to figure out a way to
But I'm not-
incentivize the businesses to comply.
Correct, I'm just telling you, the chamber.
And you're talking about the California Chamber.
No, I'm talking about the city chamber.
The city chamber took a vote.
Yes, they polled their members, yes.
But they're okay with the resolution, right?
Yes, they're
Oh.
100% okay with the resolution, and we have no control over what the state did.
Yeah.
Ultimately, because of the state law that was approved recently, we are preempted from regulating these matters. And so the resolution does encourage, but the state law mandates.
Let me see if I understand what you're saying. When you say we are preempted, we must be in, my interpretation is we must be in compliance with the state law, but we have the opportunity, if we chose, to be more restrictive than the state law. Is that correct?
Well, typically, once the state adopts regulations in a field, we are preempted from modifying those. Sometimes the state law provides that the city may go beyond the state regulations, but if it does not so provide, typically we're preempted from tinkering with the state mandates.
So what would the outcome be if, I'm not suggesting we do this, but if we required, if you buy a hamburger, it must be accompanied by milk. What's the risk we run in that regard?
You would offend every Orthodox Jew, for one thing.
Water. Cancel the milk, water.
Well, that goes far beyond the state mandate, so it would be an interesting issue we would need to look into a little bit.
So legal advice is that we comply with the state mandate.
Well, we're not the ones complying. The local restaurants are mandated to comply.
So why is this on the agenda?
This was a resolution that was apparently in the works for some time, and the state law intervened, but the resolution itself doesn't supersede state law in any way. It's merely a statement of encouragement on the part of the city council.
This gives us a way to show that the council does encourage that activity. What we're also not doing by having an ordinance is put the enforcement onus on us. The enforcement bonus falls back onto the state. But we're kind of voicing our opinion that it is a good idea. We are supportive, and with Councilman Popescu's
And that makes sense. I'm just trying to understand the total context.
So I spent a lot of time with the group, and they were lobbying me pretty hard to push forward an ordinance. I am not comfortable with an ordinance. I think the state has gone too far in legislating how we use straws and other devices. I'm not in agreement with that type of stuff. Although I happen to be one of only 2 vegetarians on this council, I may not look like it, and even the other vegetarian may not look like it, but we try to eat healthy and we try to live a healthy lifestyle. Sorry. And, you know, there are a lot of things that we believe in, and I am 100% in support of this city supporting healthy initiatives as we are basically founded from a health-centric message. So, but I do believe that it causes problems with business, and in a world, in a state where we cannot afford to lose any more business and we are overtaxed as it is, my political beliefs outweigh any possibility of me supporting an ordinance. So the agreement was I would support a resolution coming through. Just so happened that the governor did sign the legislation. I think there was some question of whether or not the governor was going to do it, but the governor did sign it, so it really doesn't much mandate anymore. Now, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second. I'm going to talk about straws because I can, and because Dr. Daly pointed out something. And you're saying, what? So, the law that says if you are at a sit-down restaurant, right, they can no longer offer you a straw on the basis that we need to protect our environment. If you ask for a straw, you can still receive a straw, but they can no longer initiate or give you a straw without you asking, only at sit-down restaurants. So my wife happens to be a waitress at a local restaurant where she works very hard on her feet all day long. And I asked her about all the bags of straws at the end of the day that they throw out into the streets that get washed down to the ocean. And she looked at me really puzzled. And I said, well, all the straws that you waste out of your restaurant, you know, daily, that you guys just throw out into the gutters that end up down in, you know, and pollute our water. And she still looked at me. And I said, well, I don't understand, because everywhere I drive, I see paper cups and I see straws and I see trash on the side of the road. And when I drive down the daily off-ramp, I see paper cups and I see straws and I see trash. But did you know that that law exempts fast food restaurants? So let me ask you about seriously, about the logic behind that, right? So we forced sit-down restaurants that already collect all of their trash that goes into recycle bins that's properly handled by that company that was here already. We forced them into some quasi-stupid law that we think it makes us feel good, but yet people are driving through fast food restaurants, they're buying their sodas, and they're chucking them out the window when they're done. And that's the stuff that's ending up in the ocean. So when we talk about legitimate stuff, I'm all about taking care of our environment, probably more than a lot of people, all right? But I'm not going to put personally, I don't want to put undue strain on people that do work hard, try to do the right thing, and try to own a business in this state. Okay, end of rant.
We need more rants. So there's a resolution before you. Was there a motion?
Is there a public, I believe there's, no?
I don't have any requests. Anybody can speak, but I don't have any requests.
Well, thank you. George and I finally agree on something.
Now that needs a resolution right there. I will move the resolution, and I do support it as a resolution.
Oh, there's a request. Oh, it was someone who was behind Conrad, and Conrad, you cast a shadow.
A large shadow. Yeah, close, Conrad. A wide shadow.
No, I didn't prepare this speech, but anyhow, I felt compelled to come up here to say a few words. And first of all, I want to thank the council members, every one of you, including Mr. Conrad, even though at times we don't see eye to eye, but I really appreciate your effort in putting this resolution together. And also, I want to thank specifically to Phil for spending hours and hours with us, talking. Sometimes we talk in circle. But I do respect his position on certain issues. At the end of the day, I still want to thank you on behalf of all the moms and dads, all the parents who live in Loma Linda. I have friends who actually come all the way here to witness this occasion because as a mom, we are concerned for our children's health, even though we may disagree how we should go about protecting our children's health. But the bottom line is that that as residents, we do care and we want to be engaged in the policy. So tonight, I'd like to congratulate the council members for making such a important decision. Even though it's symbolic, the message is pretty significant. And we look forward to working with you on the continuous basis, because we are not going away anytime soon, because we are here for good, and we will constantly looking out for opportunities to work with you on policies that matters to our children's health as well as our health. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So we're still looking for a motion. You made a motion, there was a second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, is there any opposition? Hearing none, you have 100% approval. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, now item 11.
Item 11, this is to open a forum for discussion with no recommendation at this point, to explore the formation and the scope of activities for a Healthy Community Advisory Committee. We've had a group of residents approach council and staff with the idea that the city should have some type of an advisory committee to discuss the health of the community, to give recommendations as far as healthy activities and how those activities impact the lives of the citizens and the functions of the community. Some of those activities are already folded into and incorporated into existing committees or bodies. So, Planning Commission does look at, healthy built, as we build things, how that fits into what the walkable, livable portion of that is, how that interacts with the rest of the community. Historic is looking at preserving certain healthy components of the city. We also have the trails and parks committees that are looking at those specific functions. So there's probably going to be some overlap on some of this. Some in some research, other cities in California have a very broad spectrum of what a healthy community looks like. Everything from children's inoculations to and health exams to emotional well-being and creating environments for equal employment and equal opportunity, and a very broad spectrum. So the purpose of presenting this is so that the council has a forum to discuss. First, is there a nexus for a committee along these lines, what that committee should look like, its shape, or at least give some direction to staff if there is a feeling that this should exist, on what the shape, scope, and composition of the committee should be. And that is all I got. The rest is open for discussion.
I would like to hear from the people who are proposing it, what is the ultimate result of having such a committee? I know you paraphrased it, but I'd like to hear from their own words.
I think that they can certainly give a better answer than I can. We've tried to get some clear definition and haven't really gotten, maybe through misunderstanding or speaking in circles or not getting a clear picture. So maybe they can provide that for us. And I know some of the individuals involved in instigating this are in the audience. So if they can come up and maybe provide some clarity,
If that's okay
or a
with the
place
mayor.
to begin, if that's the way you want to approach this.
I would like to pick up what the council member mentioned just now when we were talking about the resolution for the healthy by default beverage. You mentioned about the idea of giving restaurants or practices such a or provide such encouragement, some form of recognition. This will be a type of activities or advice that this health committee may provide to the council members. Other things that this healthy community, some cities call it health advisory, some cities call it healthy community board, but the objective of this group of individuals or residents would be to provide resources, advice, directions, or even research data to the council members so that when it comes to matters concerning health and wellness, you may make decisions based on hard science, based on research, based on data, from the perspective of health. So the Healthy by Default is another prime example where this committee would be working closely with you. Today, what happened was, because there is no such committee, so a group of residents like us then came together and decided to approach one of you and initiate the conversations. But moving forward, we felt it would be a good idea if the city council has such a platform, such a work group where residents who are interested in health or has training in health would commit themselves to a certain term of service, a year, 2 year, whatever you may decide. Those are the details that we can work out. But their prime purpose, their objective will be to explore and to discuss and to find ways to work with you on matters that pertain to health. Interestingly, I was looking up on some demographics in the city of Loma Linda. Many of us think that Loma Linda is a wealthy city, or at least one of the wealthiest cities in the San Bernardino County. But do you know, in this city, 20% of the residents are actually living in poverty. And that statistics is very close to the county as a whole. And 12% of the seniors who are over 65 years old do not have health insurance. So issues like this, the health committee or the health advisory board would be interested to work with you to devise or to explore ways where we could address some of these health disparities. I'm going to give you another example. The farmers market that we have. In fact, I just landed today that we have a farmers market, which is a good thing. We love the idea of having a farmers market in our community. This work group can even explore ways to seek market match, for example. I'm not sure whether you've heard about market match program. Basically, is a federal funded program where we will award, where the government or the state, right? I think Robin will probably speak. She's a little bit more well-versed in the area. Basically, they would award dollar to dollar, up to $10 to the farmers market operation and to low-income consumers, right? Consumers who come from low-income community, they will be able to take advantage of market match program to double their purchase. So instead of buying a $10 worth of goods, they could end up buying $20 worth of goods with just $10. So market match is a program to try to diminish the health disparity in a low-income community. So here's another type of program or activities, resources where this health advisory board or health advisory committee would work with you. Another example, and I just happened to bring it here, this is, I'm not sure whether you're aware, the Loma Linda Chinese Church last year organized an Amen free clinic where we provided free medical and dental care to close to 800 residents in San Bernardino County. We had 30 dentists mostly from the School of Dentistry joined us and participate with us in providing this dental and medical care to the underserved community. This year we are organizing the clinic once again, but the church has decided to do it right here in the city of Loma Linda, which is right where the church is at Mountain View and Van Leuven. The reason is because we realize that even in Loma Linda City, 20% of the residents, as I shared with you, are living every day in poverty. So there's, again, a tremendous need to reach out to this group of people. Even though we have 2 hospitals, 2 medical centers, accessibility, there is no problem with accessibility, but there's obviously problem with affordability, which explains why people are not getting help when they need to, as far as medical and health needs are concerned. So projects like this will be another example where the health advisory will be able to work with you and churches to organize mega clinic like this to reach out to your residents. And I think personally Loma Linda should now think beyond Loma Linda Medical Center as well as Loma Linda University. Too many times or too often, for the longest time, we have relied upon these two major institutions for a lot of health outreach. But I think it's time for the City Council itself to think of ways to reach out to our own constituency, in addition to what the university or the medical centers are doing. Thank you.
Before you leave, I have a please come forward. I have a concern. As the previous dean of the School of Dentistry, I know that we would routinely receive many, many opportunities to do community clinical care.
Mm-hmm.
One of the issues, because it's a complicated world now, one of the issues had to do with liability. And that tripped us up on many opportunities that we wanted to engage in, but we had difficulty clarifying the liability issues that could be involved. Would this Healthy Communities Committee be part of that solution? Because I do not want to see the city in our quest to provide care for our local community and perhaps even extended community to start getting into liability issues. And that's a very, very real issue. Can you address that?
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as the Amen Free Clinic is concerned, let me just give you the flyer so that you can have an idea. So what we did last year, or what we will do this year, as far as the church is concerned, they actually engage AMEN, which stands for Adventist Medical Evangelism Network. And this is an organization that consists of dentists, doctors, what they do is they would go to cities and provide the medical and dental care by bringing the equipment as well as dental supplies and whatever that is needed to run a clinic, a proper dental or vision clinic. So when we engage this organization, and part of the deal is that they would buy medical liability insurance. Amen. Amen, right. So we engage this organization called Amen. They come to whatever city that you want, whichever location that you want. We pay them a fee. They come here, they bring their equipment, their medical supplies, and they would even bring their personnel, but not except dentists and doctors. They will come and help us run the entire operation. We, on the other hand, would recruit dentists, hygienists, and medical doctors and whatnot to be the providers for the day, for the 2 days or 3 days, depending on how much budget we have, depending on how much we pay them. So as far as liability is concerned, we are pretty secure because we will not be facing any liability issues. It will be Amin. They will be the front person to shoulder all this liability insurance issue. And furthermore,
that's the principal issue. I think that I can speak on behalf of the city council and say we're all singing off the same page in terms of wanting to provide services, health services, food services, whatever, to our local community. but in the litigious environment that we now live in, we have to be very, very careful. And so I wear multiple hats. And the hat I'm wearing tonight says that I'm going to depend on our city attorney to be sure that we're not accepting liability that we're either unaware of or can't afford. And if we can do that, I think we can make music.
Now, this operation is very similar to Pathway to Health. I'm sure you are very familiar. Pathway to Health, the mega clinic that they ran last year in Texas. There are 3,000 to 4,000 people who actually avail themselves for the services they provide.
Sorry. Was this through part of the Adventist church that set this whole thing up before, Jen?
Right, but they are not related to Pathway to Health, but in terms of the mission and the approach, the model is very similar.
Okay.
Except that Pathway to Health is on a huge, bigger scale. They are serving people in the thousands, 2, 3, 5,000 people. Amen is on a smaller scale. They are reaching out to people less than 1,000 people. You can check on the website. General Conference, our Seventh-day Adventist General Conference in Silver Spring, engage them every year to run this clinic as a way of outreach, as a way of building friendship with the community. They routinely engage Amen to provide such service. And like I said, you can check on the website, look at their history, look at the operations. They have been in running for maybe 5, 6 years, in the last 5, 6 years. And the whole idea is to work with churches or even lay people who have the means and who will be able to work together with them to provide such care to people who need the care.
And as I was trying to say, I think we are pursuing the same outcomes in terms of providing care for underserved populations. I'm fully supportive of that. But I want to be sure we protect the city from potential liability issues. And I'm no longer dean of the dental school, but I assume that the person that's replaced me would be equally concerned to what I was, because we had many experiences where there were very well-meaning, well-intended people that developed resources and so forth, that we had to really limit our involvement for liability issues. And that part of it's not my issue any longer. That's for somebody else to deal with. But in terms of the city, I want to be sure that if we provide these kinds of services within the context of our city, that we are not accepting some clinical liability issues that would be high risk. So that's my only issue.
I understand.
I have one other question. Healthy Communities Committee. That's an advisory committee, I assume. Advisory to whom?
To the council members.
Okay.
So the capacity is strictly advisory, not executive. So even when we come to programs like this, the city councils are not involved in the daily operations or the direct operations of such event. It will be done by the stakeholders, whoever they are. In this case, it will be the churches who actually are the stakeholders. But for other things, it could be healthy by default policy. That will be on the policy level, and it's not an intervention or program per se.
And so the last comment I'll make is I hope that I'm supportive of having a Healthy Communities Committee. I think that's a good idea on many different levels. But I hope that that committee looks at some of the risks and hurdles that we need to clear in order to provide the kind of service that you want us to provide and that we want to provide. But it's becoming a very complicated world. And so I don't mean for this to be a downer. I just want to be realistic, because I agree fully and completely with the goals that you've outlined, and I want to support it.
So when I was doing some research on this, and I'm the one who wanted to bring this forward for discussion, I'm supportive of this, although I did have some discussion with the assistant city manager, and we did talk about that there already are some overlays with some of the other committees we have. Obviously, we have trails and those Parks and Rec. But when I was doing some research, I was looking at Yucaipa, one of our neighboring cities here, and I just pulled it up right here. Maybe if we simplified it and we kind of started off very broad, and this is what it says: the Healthy Yucaipa Committee's primary responsibilities include acting in an advisory capacity to the City Council in all other policy matters pertaining to the Healthy Yucaipa Committee, promoting community health, reviewing proposals for programs, projects, and facilities, assisting and supporting one of the goals of the Youth Advisory Committee, which is to promote healthy guidelines and choices for youth. Makes reference to some other things in Yucaipa that they have that we don't have. However, I mean, if we just made it kind of a simplified kind of thing like that, and, you know, then this goes into how the committees are picked, but I would assume that would fall in line with all of our other committees. Just primarily acting in an advisory capacity to the City Council, promoting community health, looking at programs, projects, proposals, those type of things, and bringing them forward. And then supporting the other committees such as Trails and the Parks and Rec, and however we can do that. So not to over-committee everything. I mean, we do have quite a few here. However, we've actually had a shortage in participation lately. People that have been involved in our other committees, you know, it seems like we're begging people to be involved in some of those things, whereas in this particular case, we have a group of people that have consistently come to every meeting that I've been to, and maybe this would be a committee that actually we have an abundance of applications and we don't have to, you know, we don't have to beg for people. I don't know. So I'm in support of looking at something. I mean, even if we just make it real simple, a real simple mandate and start out with and see kind of how it goes, and advisory on health-related topics such as the one that you brought forward here. And you know, just as long as everybody's real clear that, you know, you're gonna have to work just as hard sometimes for some of them. Some of them may be easy. You might come up with some ideas or funding mechanisms for things that are a no-brainer, and it's easy. It's easy for us. But we have to evaluate and look at everything from different angles and different sides, and not to be in opposition, but that would be your role. Bring that information forward and then sell us on it.
Do you want to say anything?
The chairman needs to wear pink, by the way, so if we see anybody with, oh, we got somebody with pink.
That's the careful, the lopers.
What's that?
The lopers are in pink. That color's already taken in this town.
Hi, my name is Riham. I think what I'm gonna say is just recapping everything, simplify everything. A health advisory committee or board can help the city council connect with its community. The health advisory board is formed methods for generating public interaction, and it's created to advise, to consult with, and make recommendations to policymakers when it comes to public health. You might wonder how the health advisory board could assist the city council and the population of Loma Linda. Here are some examples, and some of it listed already by Mr. Fell. The health advisory board, they can discuss ideas and issues about public health that the city council is not yet ready to formally consider. Like what happened with the healthy beverages by default, it took time for us to come to a resolutions. Also, on behalf of the city council, they can research new or controversial ideas, specific topics, and professional input related to community health status. They also can serve as a coordinating body to ensure special projects fit within the community health improvements. They also can connect the city council with possible data resources. Also, they can provide needed prospects on public health problems. Some members might have knowledge and experience working with a specific population within the community. This can be very valuable in planning the process. Also, they can provide program evaluations, suggestion, and expertise, as mentioned by Mr. Fell. And also, the board members can also help prioritize health problems and goals, including making judgment about scope, social and economic burden, urgency, existing and potential intervention. This is just a small recap about what can, if we want to start a health advisory committee, these are the things we can start with. Thank you.
So are you volunteering to be a member of that committee?
You can ask, yes.
Okay.
It will be an honor.
I have your little flyer here. It has a typo on it that might be a problem. You list at the bottom amen with Amen Free Clinics, plural.org, and there's no S, and if you go to that page, it's a dead link. And then you say on the bottom right, amenfreeclinic.org without the S, and that one's correct. So you may want to correct your flyer,
Thank you.
because someone might look at that and then be discouraged. We, as the city of Loma Linda, have declared ourselves to be a healthy community, and there's a process for obtaining that designation that we've already cleared the hurdles on. What I'm concerned about is a lot of the things that you mentioned as being the projects that this committee would do are along the lines of social welfare programs for which cities don't have a tax base. The taxes for those programs flow to the state, to the county, and to the federal government, and then they share money back and forth. Because the burden for health disparities, for example, and for uninsured is predominantly by convention in the state of California, placed at the foot of the county, and the funding flows as a result of that. It's not really the purview of cities to do that. So if it's predominantly about providing health care, I'm fully supportive and have been involved for many years in providing health care in international settings as a volunteer. And I've been somewhat discouraged at providing free health care, as Dr. Daly mentioned, in the United States because of the tendency for the recipients of that free care to avail themselves of the ability to sue the providers under the rubric of no good deed goes unpunished, and that concerns me a little bit. I also was providing care in the country of Mexico back in the 90s, and then they disinvited all American physicians without a Mexican license. So there, as Dr. Daly mentioned, many legal hurdles to providing this kind of care, and I'm sure the Amen clinics are doing a wonderful job and dealing with those issues. I'm not sure where the city can get involved with those things, and I'm also just, at some point, I'm philosophically opposed to having government step in where charities are best deployed. So I never want government to take the place of charities, of churches and people that are helping from out of the goodness of their hearts. Because when government gets involved, it goes from charitable to entitlement. And for cities to take on an entitlement without a tax base is an extremely rough thing to do. And it would not, I don't think, be the wisest thing. I'm trying to figure out, because you gave mostly those examples, exactly what the committee would advise us on short of that kind of program, because it's a lot of those things, you know, in the division of responsibility in the American system of government. You've got your federal and your state and your county, and we're a wholly owned and created subsidiary of the state. So the state delegates to us police and fire, and we have some responsibility we've taken on ourselves for utilities such as trash and and water and things like that. But they haven't delegated to us health insurance or coverage of the poor. So I'm trying to figure out what's left if you strip all of that stuff away that the county provides and that charities provide. What's left? Convince me that the committee has something that we can actually do as a city.
I think I need to clarify myself. I may have misspoke just now. I think what Phil mentioned will probably best sum up what we collectively have been talking to him about as far as what this committee would provide. The examples that I gave you just now, whether it's IMN, farmers market, or some of the things I mentioned were examples where the committee will work closely with the local stakeholders such as churches, or any professional groups in providing the care. But as far as City Council is concerned, you will not be providing the care directly in terms of providing the fund or the budget. I understand that will not be the place for the city to do, but the health committee, the role will be basically advisory, be a resource person, be a coordinator, helping the city to establish partnership maybe with groups or other agencies that may share the same agenda as far as the interests of Loma Linda City is concerned. So I think the role is primarily advisory rather than direct services.
Can I just, let me push back on that before you go to the next topic. But when governments get involved in any way with an initiative, whether it's advisory or just organizing or providing the venue for it or any kind of involvement, they immediately put themselves into the economy of that activity. And part of that economy is liability. And as Dr. Daly mentioned, it would rope us into being the deepest pocket in that program. And it would subject us to liability, and we don't have the revenue flows, because when money flows through healthcare, and there's a lot of money flowing through healthcare, a certain percentage of it is siphoned off to pay malpractice and general directors and operators and liability premiums. And for this kind of a thing, because I've been involved in multiple levels of government and I've seen the lawsuits that come forward, that, for example, San Bernardino County Transportation Authority may be just one of the minor participants in a project, and if somebody's injured on that project, they get sued. So everybody has to carry insurance. They all have agreements for coverage and indemnification for liability, and it just becomes a really messy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, is there something beyond getting the city directly involved in an economy that has an extremely active plaintiff's bar chasing its ambulances through the city? Is there something beyond that we could get involved with? Because if that's what it's going for, we're going to get our liability insurer objecting, and we're going to get probably our councils objecting to being involved, even in an organizational way, and creating the forum for it. So I'm trying to figure out if there's anything left if you strip all of that out.
I think so, because like Rehan mentioned, what are the things that we can do is to work with you to create and advocate health education, nutrition, providing nutrition education support. For instance, the healthy by default beverage policy that we are adopting tonight, and which will become a law next year, may not mean much to the residents if the resident doesn't understand what it is. So one of the things that we would do will be to provide education to the, working closely maybe with different partners, with university, with schools, getting the interns, the students, running programs for schools in health fair. Those are the things that I think we can certainly work with you. So like I say, be assured things like that will not, you will not be involved. You as in City Council will not be involved in any way or form or fashion. You will be invited to grace the occasion as a mayor of the city to say a few words of thanks and to interact with to shake hands and interact with the residents. That's the kind of involvement I can foresee. The City Council will be involved. Other than that, no, I don't think you will be involved directly in any way or form or shape. Recently, we ran a campaign in Loma Linda Academy. We means the San Bernardino County actually. Together with Loma Linda University, we have a group of interns. We ran a nutrition campaign at Loma Linda Academy where we teach the kids about the importance of drinking water and cutting down on sugary drink. But we did it because the university, we engaged the university to do it. But if we have a health advisory board, the health advisory will be initiate all these conversations with the education institutes. Does it make sense to you?
Go ahead. Yeah, well, it does for me a little bit. I think we're getting too caught up in legality of who's providing medicine to who, because I think this is beyond providing medicine. I think it's more about opportunity to educate. A couple of thoughts. It sounds like this idea came out of your efforts involving the prior subject of the healthy choices, correct? Having said that, believe it or not, as challenging as that process was, that actually was probably the fastest, most efficient way to get it done, which is to go to one of us, give us your ideas, sell us on it, put it on the agenda, and it gets approved. Having a committee discuss it and roll it over and come up with a policy sometimes may slow the process down. What I'm trying to say is, technically, you're always free to come up with ideas among yourselves and just bring it to us at the council level, and we, adopt it as it relates to, nothing prevents you from continuing to facilitate your efforts without being a part of a committee. That's just one of my initial thoughts as to the best way to ensure that you actually get what you want done without actually being part of a committee. One of the other thoughts that I'm having about this is that I suspect that the people who would like to be involved right now, you guys are all the School of Public Health, or what are your backgrounds? Allied Health. Okay, so is it all nutritionists, or, so it's all mostly nutritionists, okay. Dietary issues, okay. Dietitians, okay. Having said that, I think that if we went forward with a committee like this, I would think that maybe just one of that profession would be on it, and then we would want to, bring other people from various parts of the community. Now, interestingly enough, I happened to talk to Doug Herman, the principal of Loma Academy, and I told him about the fact that this item was going to be on the agenda tonight, and he thought it was a great idea, and he wanted to make sure that we absolutely put someone from the academy on a committee like this, specifically someone as it relates to physical sports. Because obviously, one of the concerns in our society these days is kids are not, playing enough, not enough outdoor activities. Having said that, that still doesn't, in my mind, persuade me that we need a whole committee for it. I know I'm arguing in favor of what you're trying to achieve, but I have a feeling that you guys getting together and coming up with ideas may end up being more efficient than actually creating a city committee. One proposal I might have, I'm not sure where Dr. Lennart stays on this, is to maybe do an exploratory ad hoc committee. Maybe something in an interim for 6 months, put it together, see how it works, how many people participate, what ideas they come up with tangible things that the committee does. Maybe have one of you attend all of our other committees and see whether there's insight you can provide to those committees about what they're doing as it relates to health-related issues. And then see if it morphs into a permanent standing committee that we believe brings real value to the city. I agree with the mayors about the fact that sometimes when you get government involved, it doesn't actually improve the process, but actually slows it down. Now, it's possible, and I could be wrong, that you believe that our involvement may help speed up the educational process that you're trying to achieve. Unfortunately, we're not, even though we're on the council, we don't have that much of a big megaphone to tell 10,000 residents that, hey, we're doing this, and because the council says that, now 10,000 people show up. That's one of the challenges. We find that the institutions have actually done a much better job of educating the local community about events. And clearly, I mean, I see it in the local paper that we get every day, every week. Loma Linda is involved, Loma University is involved in a number of education opportunities in the community. And you see it all the time. They conduct health fairs and seminars, and I mean, there's things going on almost every day, whether it be on campus or someplace else. And they've done a pretty good job of communicating that. So to a certain degree, they're actually doing that job. So I'm not quite 100% sure why we as a council can contribute to that other than putting our little stamp and showing up to the event. Having said that, I did notice that one of the sponsors of your event was Assemblywoman Eloise Gomez Reyes. And I'm just curious, what is it her office doing as it relates to this event other than putting their name down? I'm just curious. Are they specifically providing something, some service?
Their role is very much restricted to helping us promote to their constituency, because
Okay,
many
so it's-
people in their constituency are actually living in poverty.
Okay.
So that's basically their role.
So their office is helping promote
Mhm.
the event? Okay.
Yeah.
I see. So you just, since you're up there, just a quick question. So if you advise us on something, you're hoping that we as a council either adopt a policy or spread the word?
I think both. It could be such as a healthy by default
Okay, the
beverage.
resolution.
It will be both working with you and together educating the members of the community. Even we have not done it yet, but we'll be happy to educate the business owners, for example, if that is something that they are concerned with. I think that will be the kind of thing moving forward. We will be working with you.
Yeah. And just one last thought, and I'll let someone else speak. But one of my first concerns when I heard about this, and it was interesting because it was brought up actually in the staff report about the fact that Loma University was working with Lewis Homes and on some healthy communities type of initiatives. And in the past, and Georgia can allude to this because we had lengthy discussions about this over the years, is that sometimes development interests and business interests in their effort to circumvent the population's will use interesting venues to try to promote certain developments that perhaps the community doesn't want. And I guess to be more blunt is they'll say things, we are making housing affordable, and we're also making it more healthy by making people bike and walk to work. You can't argue against that, except that if you actually put those into practice, none of the houses affordable, nobody bikes to work that paid $500,000 for the house, and all it did was enrich the developers, which then in turn funded most of the council members who are no longer here. So you can see how what seems to start like a very good initiative can turn rather radically and become an agenda for a particular developer. So that's something that was in the back of my mind when I saw this. So if we pursue this, I would
I
always
think-
be aware of
Right.
who are the interests and what is it they're trying to achieve. So that's just one of my concerns.
My sense, my short answer will be this work group, the level of power and authority will be the same as any other work group that already existing, right? So their power or the authority will be very much limited to advisory, just like your park community, your trail, right? You have a heritage committee, you have a planning committee. Their role is very much advisory. You, as a council member, still have the veto power. You have the
And I agree
executive
with you,
power.
but sometimes advisory committees sometimes can be, for lack of a better word, hijacked by other interests. That's all. So we're always aware of, some maybe the underlying agendas that may not always show up. I don't think any of you are in that group, just to make it real clear. But it's just something that I'm kind of in the back of my mind, so.
Okay, my name is Herbert Manorum. I think we need to understand the function on the role of the organization. It is already clearly stated by the councilor that they are not, that is not their rules. I don't know if I compare Loma Linda City to Redlands or Colton. I think they don't have any, what they call it, a health committee. So you have to see, is it really the government? This is the government. So we have to understand, because if you say Amin, I know that is under Chinese Adventist Church. I do have, I call it Liam, Loma Linda Indonesia Ministry. If I come to the counselor to say like that, so there is no here like favoritism, So I don't know, maybe you guys a lot of things to do. So remember, you have to be careful about the liability. I don't know how your organization pay the insurance liability. It is very expensive. If they sue you like 10 million, you have to pay a lot. So that is only my comment. I don't agree, so I support the councilor.
I just have a comment. Okay, when you have mentioned that, it will be very easier for us if we have thoughts to come to one of the city councils. It will be much faster. If I have some things in mind and I come to you, it's not a priority for you. But if there's a health advisory committee, it's a priority for them. This is one point. The other things, Loma Linda is growing, as we all see. And I think even the city hall structures has to go along with this growth. So a multidisciplinary system is needed in this stage of growing. And the last things, we would really appreciate before you make any decision, if you can give us the chance to write a proposal, a full proposal about the committee, how it should be formed and all the requirements, and you look at it. That will be really appreciated. Thank you.
Is that part of the proposal? Because I think she made a very good point. To have a description and a charge for a health communities committee.
Well,
before we actually act on it.
This wasn't to do any action tonight. This was to start discussion, to see if there was
So this
an
is
appetite.
not an
No.
action item?
No, because we don't, we don't have a framework in
Okay.
place, and so.
Okay.
That's a part of why there's no staff recommendation. The staff basically brought it forward without recommending anything.
Okay.
So the purpose
Because
was, sorry, the purpose was to create a place to discuss whether there's even something for us to pursue. If it is, then for the council to give staff direction in one form or another and how you would like us to pursue this.
So real quick, and this is a plug on both sides.
That'll only confuse us more.
Well,
You're on
but
both sides.
hear me out. This was brought up earlier, and I think we kind of missed the point. We all have busy lives and careers and things going on, including our city staff. So, and I shared with the committee before that we have cut staff down to the bone where, I mean, we laugh, but, we joke about they all wear different hats because we don't have enough staff members here. And that's part of the reason why we're in a good financial position and we do take care of the priorities here in the city. And those are the big ticket items that we are concerned with. However, if there was a group that could do that type of research, that could pursue those grant opportunities, those things were brought up a couple of times to me. And, I looked at them and I thought, man, this looks like great stuff, but I don't have the time to work on that. Are there people in their field that are more familiar with that type of stuff and could work on those type of things? So I think there's value in that. There's value in a group of people that want to help and support the community You know, it's funny, I was reading that thing about Ukaipa here. Ukaipa, they got vacancies on their committee. They can't fill any of their committees like we can't fill ours. So again, when you have people that want to volunteer, I'm all good with that. I think somehow we went kind of a little off down a rabbit hole, so to speak. I don't think we need to talk about, you know, medical clinic stuff or things like that. I mean, like if we just kept it real simple and talked about initiatives, healthy alternatives, lifestyle choices, things, education, you know, but that's another thing. So here's a challenge. So I'm lobbing the ball back and forth, right? We don't have the money for those type of educational programs. So if a committee like this was formed, they'd have to look into those types of funding sources and stuff like that, right? I mean, and I know you guys are, because you're up for that challenge. But this was just to open up discussion. I would suggest, especially a couple of you guys, bring back something formal where you quantify everything that we've discussed. You heard some of the concerns that are up here, so maybe we stay away from some of that stuff and we focus on the positive, you know, and kind of see. But that's my suggestion. It was just for discussion only, and
So
you know,
staff would be open to working with the group to get this thing shaped into something to bring forward if that's what you desire. And you do have one point that regardless of what this is, there is some staff time involved
and that's
as part of every committee.
And that's part of the bigger, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I got to say this. And so the ball's back over here now on this side of the court. These guys are literally running around all day long. And so as much of the work, if you are really interested in doing this, as much of the work as you can put together, and I mean, just last week as I was clicking through and finding cities and websites to kind of compare through, there's got to be some examples out there that we could plagiarize. I know you guys have done some of that stuff already. So there's some opportunities. Just understand, these guys will work with you. I just can't, it's hard for us to ask them to go out and do a bunch of work, almost something specific.
And to finish the thought was that although their staff work there, there is, you know, there may be an opportunity to leverage, you know, other individual skills and abilities and knowledge to create avenues to do things that we wouldn't normally do with the limited staff we have. So we are willing to work with this group to bring something into a shape that is more concrete for discussion, if that's what you would like.
Yeah, and if at each one of the charges that you want to give this committee, or you plan to give it, ask the question, is this better handled by the university? Is this better handled by the Chinese church? Is this better handled by the faith community together? Or is it better handled by the city? Because if you can't answer the question, it's better handled by the city, it should be handled by someone else.
We understand that. And one of the other questions is what is JPIA going to say about this? What other committees are involved, and what are the impacts to the community and staff as a whole? So we can give that view. The group can give a view as far as scope and desires that we don't normally see, are not equipped to address, and then we can bring that back at a future date into something that's a little more fleshed out.
Well, in my view, this is a perfect example why committees don't work. We're now going to give a bunch of staff time to analyze it and come back, discuss it again, and hopefully get it. I actually think there's enough information for us to make a decision whether we want to have a committee or not. If we can't decide based on what they've told us, if the committee brings value, I don't see the reason to bring it back another month and discuss it and then ask for more data and just analyze it some more, and then everybody gets to speak another 5 minutes. I'd like to hear what Dr. Leonard has to say on this, and maybe we can make a decision tonight, whether we want a committee or not. We can figure out how we put it together and what they're going to do along the way, but I don't think we need to have multiple meetings to make a decision. To me, I think there's enough information here for us to make a decision. But
I can't wait to hear what you're going to say now.
I wasn't sure if he wanted to hear what I had to say because he kept talking. So.
Go ahead.
We sat here, in fact, we do this kind of every year. We look at committees that need to be staffed, and we want to have people more involved, and we're wondering why we can't be people more involved. We have a group here that wants to be more involved. Seems to me it would be something we might, want to encourage in some way. The things I would look at is the cost. You said there is no fiscal cost. but there is obviously the staff time cost. It's clearly an advisory committee. They can't run amok and go, do all sorts of, pass any sorts of laws and things like that. However, I think your point is well taken that it's kind of an exploratory thing. I think maybe it's something we should look into and come back with some proposals. I know you want to decide tonight, but I'm not sure exactly what it is that the committee would be studying. I mean, we know health, but it would be maybe a good idea to come back to your original proposal about a little ad hoc thing, get together and decide what kind of things does this committee, what would this committee talk about? What would this committee recommend that's not already being duplicated? And then if it's something that's good, I think we should do it. It's certainly not anything that could hurt, I don't think.
If I can just add to that briefly, I appreciate Mr. Popescu's quest for expedience, but I also think process is important. And I think that Mayor Rigsby identified a key question that needs to be addressed in this, and that is, what would be the role and responsibilities of the city? What do you want from the city? I don't think there's any disagreement on the outcomes that we're trying to pursue, but it gets complicated. And so I think, what do you perceive as the role of the city? How can we contribute? What would our responsibility be? And let's go for it.
We are open for direction.
Sounded like the committee was willing to go back and do some work and bring this back to the city staff for review. So that's minimal as far as staff time.
Okay. And then we will coordinate with them. All right, thank you.
Thank you for your interest. This is, it's good to see that there are that many people who are interested in getting the city involved. We've got a lot of resources for healthcare in this city, and if we can add, then we'd like to do that. Thanks. Okay. Oh, you want to say something? Go ahead.
We have the chair of the committee.
No,
In
not
pink.
me. Who's chair? I'm Georgia Hodgkin. And I wish to allay Dr. Daly's concerns. We've talked to a number of people who want to be on this committee. They're not here tonight, but they want to be on it with good ideas and eager to help the city. So your committee will be staffed.
And I would, one of the things I might encourage you to look into as you're coming back with proposals, in my view, I think one person that needs to be on the committee is someone who has experience in public health policy and initiatives.
Oh, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I suspect there's plenty of resources at the university because they got plenty of people.
Yeah.
So I think it might be an opportunity for us to collaborate a little bit more with them so we're all on the same page as to the direction we're going. So.
Will do.
Okay, item number 12. City clerk, directions about, do we want to be taxed $157 for each one of our county properties?
After reading the staff report, I support the staff recommendation and move that we reject it.
That we vote no. Well, the staff recommendation is to do whatever we say.
No, to provide direction to the city, and should you support opposing the expansion of the boundaries, authorize the city manager to submit the opposition forms.
Can you speak up a little, Barbara? I'm not
Oh, okay, I'm
quite
sorry.
hearing
I'm
you.
sorry.
We're gonna have to, do we still have Floyd's earphones?
I think so.
I think they
Yeah.
might come in handy.
I think we've got age discrimination
No,
at.
no, because I would need them
It's
as well. so-
accommodation, not discrimination.
And I think we might all be in agreement that we're opposed to this.
Yeah, that's the question. It's up to the council to make the decision, do we want to oppose the expansion of the boundaries? And if so, if that's the direction to staff, to authorize the city manager to submit those opposition
I
forms.
think every city is formulating the same opinion.
We have 11 parcels that are outside of the city limits that would be affected.
And you said that every city is opposed to it. You know other cities specifically?
I believe Colton, Redlands.
So these are cities that have
Those aren't
land and
exactly
county.
role models. but-
Grand Terrace.
Grand Terrace.
So these are cities that have count, I know Dr. Daly has a question, but it's okay.
I'd
These are
like to
cities
hear
that-
from our fire chief,
Yeah.
so we've
So
got.
it's largely symbolic, really, because our parcels are non-residential parcels that
Correct.
that live
They're
in
just
other
hills.
areas.
Yeah.
But it's more support of what appears to be this growing, rolling steamroller called the county fire department.
Okay.
And
To
and
become
standing with other cities.
bigger and
And-
generate more revenue. Okay.
And this kind of a thing, there are X number of parcels, and unless they get objections from 51% of the parcels, this will pass. So all we're doing is contributing 11 parcels out of thousands and thousands of parcels. And this is the kind of a thing that is an unelected tax increase that governments use all the time, because if you count on over 50% to object, over 50% don't even know about it. They don't even pay any attention. So this is going to pass. We just want to know whether or not we want to say no symbolically as they're passing this. Right?
More or less, yeah.
And I say no.
I'll repeat my request. I'd like to hear from our fire chief regarding what his perspective is on this.
Well, so the county fire district is,
Don't be swayed by the political rhetoric you've already heard. What
He's
do you think?
independent.
so the county fire district is not fully funded within its district, and it takes a lot of money out of the county general fund, so they're trying to create an avenue by which the district itself would become better funded. So they're trying to apply a fee to a new tax or additional tax to all these parcels to achieve that goal. And certainly we don't have a lot of say in it because we only have a few slices, really out there. It doesn't really affect our operations that much, but and if you want to make a statement about being taxed without real representation, a no vote would represent that.
So I confess, I have the staff report. I haven't really read it. Somehow I missed as I was paging through this. $157.26. What is that? Is that per parcel per year?
That's so for us, how many, we have 11 parcels, so that would be per parcel per year.
Yeah, and the parcels that we're talking about are, I understand they're county. Who's paying this? The city then?
We own the land,
Yeah.
so we are the owners of the parcel, so that we would be
Okay.
paying that.
And so let's assume for the moment that all the cities in San Bernardino County vote against this. What's the impact? What are the risks?
It really applies to the unincorporated county areas the most. That's who's not represented. So very, very few cities actually have a dog in the fight.
Okay.
It's going to hit mostly the unincorporated residents the most. But it's,
So when the mayor says this is going to approve regardless of what we do tonight,
Well, the reason for that is because there's
Because it-
$26 million that they would add to their budget if this gets approved, just to give you perspective. So
Yeah.
if you divide 26 million by $157, that's 171,000 parcels that would now be taxed. Now, out of those 171,000, I suspect a majority of them actually have residents on them, and those people.
171,000 or
Okay.
1,729,000?
Okay, no, that's the amount that we as a pay.
Oh, for the
But yeah,
city.
but
That's
what
our
they're-
city.
Yeah, the analysis says that this is part of a bigger process where they would generate approximately 26.9 million additional
Yeah, I see that.
monies.
Okay.
So if you divide that amount by the annual fee per parcel, that means it affects 171,300 some parcels.
And the reason I said that it's going to pass is it would require 85,000 parcels to object for it not to pass. And the chances that it happening are precisely 0. You won't get 85,000 parcels to object if they said that we will raise you to the ground. They wouldn't object. You wouldn't get that many.
There's still debate and controversy at the county supervisor level. So
It's
if they
three
hear
to
and
two
see-
is what I'm seeing.
You may not get the 51%, but if they see and hear a significant amount of people, then they may not have the political will to move forward. I know there's already 1 or 2 supervisors that are against it.
2 of them, Lovinggood and Rutherford, are against it.
So you're a little bit aware of it, or is that part of the staff report?
They've already
Part of the
passed
staff report.
Okay.
the fire board, which is the Board of Supervisors, has already approved this, and if less than 50% object, it will go into effect. It's already there. It's in the resolution. And 2 of the supervisors voted no.
Yeah. I haven't done my full homework on this, so I'm at a bit of a disadvantage. I mean, I believe that, there are services that are important to the welfare of our community that we should be willing to pay taxes for. I have no problem with that. But just where this fits into that, I'm not clear.
Well, it's basically, as has been stated, it's currently paid for out of the county general fund.
Mm-hmm.
County general fund has a discretionary amount of about $600 million. They have a $5 billion total budget. About almost 90% of that is pre-programmed by state mandates. So they have about a $600 million discretionary budget.
Right.
So this is about 4% of that that's being spent on supporting county fire. And if they pass this, then they have 4% more to spend on some other county priority. So I would guess that the 2 county supervisors who voted no said $26 million out of the general fund is well spent. And the other 3 are saying the citizens of the unincorporated areas of the county are not paying their fair share. They need a tax increase, and they delivered it to them. And they did it by a mechanism that bypasses an affirmative vote for taxation and replaces it with an absence of sufficient negative vote to get the taxation, which is a slam dunk. It will pass. Like I said, if they proposed that they would nuke the entire unincorporated area of the county, and does anybody object, they would get less than 50% that would object, because people just don't know, they don't care, they don't get up the gumption to write an objection letter. So this is a mechanism that government uses to impose a tax and bypass the state mandates legally to get an approval of the voters. So I have 2 objections to it. Number 1, I think the county probably gets enough money and can afford the 4% of their discretionary funds to provide fire service, which I think is one of the fundamental local
That's where I'm coming.
local government responsibilities. And the other part is that I think this is an end run around the principle in California that the citizens have to vote for a tax increase. This is a back pocket tax increase, number 1, and it's basically pulling the same trick that governments do all over the place. When we get into a budget crunch, we tell the people, if you don't tax yourself more, we're going to take away your fire trucks and your house is going to burn down. So to me, that's essentially a dishonest statement, when what is really happening is that 4% is taken away not from fire, but it's taken away from some frilly social welfare program that's maybe not even something that counties are expected to do. So if we got into a budget crunch and we threatened to take away all the fire trucks and let your house burn down, you'd vote us out of office, right? I mean, that's a ridiculous thing. We should give up, well, we just won't mow the lawn at Holdecrooks Park is what we should do, and instead we want to take away your fire trucks. So if the county is doing that, I oppose it.
I hear your point. Not having done my full due diligence on this, I will abstain. But we don't even have a motion yet.
Is there a motion?
Is there a motion?
Is there?
Oh.
Well, we have to be more specific because we have to give direction to staff, right?
The motion, if you do nothing, then we will be agreeing to the tax increase. If you say to oppose it, then we will be 11 votes out of 165,000, and we'll sway the whole vote.
Well, I know that Dr. Daly always is concerned about money, so this is an extra $1,700 the city could save. So in that spirit, I oppose this.
I appreciate that perspective and education.
So is that a motion to instruct the staff? Okay, there's a motion to instruct the staff to oppose this and you have the power to fill out the paperwork. And there's a second? Okay. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Is there anybody opposed? One opposed.
No, you didn't ask for abstentions.
Okay. No one's opposed. Does anybody abstain? Okay, one abstention. So we have 4 votes in favor and 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Now, this will be a slam dunk.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Maybe not.
I don't think so.
Well, it wouldn't be a council if we didn't have someone who wants more taxes.
No.
Okay, number 13. Number 13, Council Bill R-2018-36, supporting California State Proposition 6 to eliminate SB 1.
All right, what is the point of this? All right.
What is the point?
There's a motion.
No, but I know he has a very valid question.
Is there a second?
What's the point of the action?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a
Okay,
second.
for
Now we can
discussion.
discuss. Go
What's the
ahead.
point of the action?
The point of the, well, do you want me to tell you my point? I'll give you my point, and then everybody can express. I think that, yes, it's symbolic in the sense that we don't have any more authority to make a decision on this than anybody else. However, we as a body can send a very unified message that we do not adhere to the policy that Dr. Risby just talked about, which is the government's way of circumventing our ability to vote for a tax increase or not. And the problem with
How is this circumventing that? This
No,
is a
it's not.
proposition on the
No, okay, well,
ballot.
perhaps we need to explain the proposition to make sure we're all clear. Okay, Proposition 6 overturns SB, which one? 1, which was passed by the legislation up in Sacramento without a will of the voters.
And they like tax increases so
Well-
much, they made it number 1.
Well, yeah, but without going into the specifics of it, the concept is that Sacramento voted a tax increase on all of us, okay? And they can do it, because that's what their job is.
For
But-
infrastructure.
Correct, yeah, yeah, and it could be,
But
you
it's
can.
not.
But I don't want to debate the merits of it. I think
You don't want to, but I do, but we'll get to that.
Let me finish my thought.
I know I'm going to get outvoted here, but
No,
I think
but
there's a principle
okay.
to expose.
But your initial question was, what's the purpose of us even
Yes.
acting on this? And I'm
Correct.
trying to explain that, in my view, our purpose is to convey a message to our constituents, which is the city of Loma Linda. That's really all that we have, jurisdiction over. To explain to them that it is unfair what Sacramento did to them. We want to make sure they're aware that they're being taxed and they're paying more money every day they fill up their gas tank under false pretenses, which Dr. Risby will
What's
talk
the
about
false
earlier.
pretense?
Okay, but,
There's
okay.
no false
I
pretense.
will give you the false pretense. Just hold
Yes.
your horses.
I'm willing to
Yeah.
pay
Hold
extra
your
money for
horses.
gas to
Yeah.
provide
So,
infrastructure
yeah.
funding.
That's fine.
That's
fine.
where you're going to find out
Yeah.
that your position will change
Yeah.
before this is over.
But the
Don't
point,
count on
let
it.
me finish my point, which is, so our goal as a body is to show not only to educate the residents, okay? And we educate them about the fact that they're being taxed and they didn't get to vote on it. Whether it's fair, needed, that's a whole different issue. This is just the principle in itself. Our country was, the Tea Party was
But
from
they
the
do get to
fact.
vote on it.
No, they don't.
It's a proposition in the ballot.
And
in
we are
November.
taking a, correct, so
Yeah.
therefore, we as a council are saying what the legislation did was wrong, and you have an opportunity to correct it. And we stand with you, and we support you. That's all we're trying to do.
And,
I disagree.
and as with you, some people haven't done their homework. Most people have done their homework on this topic. And as a result, they need us to give our opinions, so those 12 people who watch Channel 3
Yeah. I think it's down to about
will be
6.
convinced by us how to vote.
I think we've got to pay our way, and we need
Okay.
this funding for infrastructure.
Okay, prepare to have that argument picked apart, because here I go.
Well,
Here I go.
okay. You're the mayor.
We have
Go for it.
we have a state legislature and serially governors who support them in that divert funds from intended purposes for their pet projects, usually some kind of a socialistic program, okay? Bullet trains or whatever else. They divert the funds. There are already...
Trump in the room, or where were we?
This is not Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not make cogent arguments. I do.
I agree with that.
Okay.
We found a point we can agree on.
This is the problem. They divert the funds away from current taxes on fuel and on vehicles that should be going to highways and roads and street repairs and all these things, intersections, should be going for that. They've already diverted the funds. And they go, you know what? We don't have the support to raise a general levy on this, raising the income tax, so let's just pull a fast one. Let's just have everybody pay a little bit more for everything they like. So we'll look at our budget. We've got a $140 billion budget, and let's just say people really like driving on non-potholed roads. Let's just raise their tax on that. And then, on top of that, see what they've done by allowing this to happen, you're basically saying, we support your diverting the funds that we previously raised for highways, because we'll just backfill with another tax. Okay, so that's the first part. Then the second part is they designate not a single dime of the money from SB 1 for roads. There are designations within it for other stuff. And if there just happens to be any money left over, we just might spend it on roads. So we would be better off, just in all things being equal. You know about Measure I, right?
Mm-hmm.
Measure I is we're a self-help county, and we tax ourselves 0.25% on our everything we buy, other than groceries, so that we can self-help and fix our freeways and things like that. That in itself, to me, is a problem, because you're basically, by self-taxing, you're saying, oh, the state got all the money they needed to do it, but they're blowing it on something else, so we'll double tax ourselves to make up for it. Now, that's bad enough. SB 1 goes beyond that, and it says, we're going to drain money out of your local economy to the tune of about $500 per family in gas taxes. $800 per family, depending on the size of the family. It's a lot of money. And we're going to drain that much out of your economy to backfill for all the diversions we've done before. And oh, guess what? we're only going to spend a very small percentage of it on your county. We're going to put most of it into Northern California parks. We're going to put it into buying beachfront property. We're going to do bike trails in a park. We're going to put in toilets in parks. So, and in other places, there's no guarantee that we would get any equity. And it's estimated that San Bernardino County will get less than 50% of the money that we send to Sacramento back, and far less than that in terms of projects to help our streets. So just think about our town. $800 per family. How many families do we have?
We have about 5,000. 4,000.
So 5,000 families? You know, just do the math. $800 each. How much money is that? That's a lot of money. Are we getting that much back every year for this? We would be better off. You know, as much as I detest the self-help thing because it relieves the state of the responsibility to actually do what they are supposed to do rather than buying bullet trains. But Measure I is way better than SB 1. So if you vote down SB 1, less money comes to us, and then we might have to raise Measure I, but at least 100% of the money goes back to our county. In this case, it's less than 50%. So this is a really inefficient tax. It's not just a hoodwink
what's the
extra
point of this
tax.
proposal? To send a
The
message?
point of this proposal,
Where did it come from?
we told.
No, not us.
Yes,
Who?
we did.
Who's we?
Do you remember that? Were you here last council meeting?
No, I was not.
Okay, that's where you missed it. We told staff to prepare this
I can't even miss a
thing.
council meeting, you guys start meddling.
We told staff to prepare, and they went and looked, and there's so much bribery in this SB 1. Every jurisdiction is told, if you vote against this, you won't get tons of money from us. But what they don't say is, you won't get 40% of your taxes back. You'll get no taxes and no money, which is better than 100% taxes and 40% of the money.
I mean, it smacks of the politics of fear that I am so.
This is the politics of math.
Hold on,
Well, all right, I have not done the level of homework.
And math is
I'll
your
give you that.
forte, so join me.
Math is my forte, but
Join
I
me.
haven't seen the figures.
I'm not
so-
Donald Trump either, but I'm going to argue it better than he did.
Ah, okay. I mean, I think we all know how everybody's gonna
No,
vote,
but
so
listen.
I don't wanna,
We've done this 3 times before. The legislature's done this 3 times before SB 1.
And they'll do it
They have-
again.
They have taken infrastructure and raised taxes 3 times before, and all 3 times they've diverted that money. So you go, no, not this time, because they told us in their commercials on TV that this money would go straight to the roadways. It doesn't. What he is saying is true. It goes to a host of other things. There is no guarantee that SB fund money goes to infrastructure. That's number one. Hold on, listen. So, the repeal is a nonpartisan effort, okay, with, I'm just saying, you'd be
Okay.
surprised at the
Okay.
people that are getting behind it. Mostly, it's lower economic communities that tend to vote left are behind this because they're economically hit with it. The repeal of SB 1 actually puts in language that forces them to spend money on infrastructure as opposed to what SB 1 says now, which is not. Here's the other thing that I like to share with people. This year, the state legislature, in the budget to the governor, they authorized $75 million for new furniture for themselves. $75 million for new furniture, okay? And then there's ads right now on TV, hit pieces that say, our bridges are going to fall down if you vote yes for 6.
unfortunately, I mean, my background, as you well know, is statistics. You can cherry pick data to fit whatever argument you believe already. And I know that, and you know that. You may be entirely accurate, but I can't just accept that at face value. But I'm concerned because Deanna and Barbara are gonna fall asleep here any minute if we keep perpetuating this. And I think we know where we're at on it. And I will concede that I have not seen the data and read the comprehensive material on this that obviously the rest of you have.
Well,
So I haven't, and I concede that. But this, any tax is a bad tax, I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
And-
I'm proud to be
Yeah.
part of this country, and that taxes are part of our dues for being part of a free country
Well,
and strong country.
One of my, I just want to make 2 quick points. Number one, I agree or disagree about whether they divert funds. Just for the sake of argument, let's assume they do not divert funds, and they actually use all of our taxes from every time I pump to build roads. And yet, our roads are still not being built. So clearly, whatever we're doing up there is not efficient enough that no matter how much we pay, somehow bridges still falling. So that in itself is an issue. Why is it that it's costing so much? Back to your point earlier, you complained, rightfully so, about the fact that we just spent $4 million doing the intersection at California and Redlands Boulevard, and Redlands didn't pay a penny. That, to me, is a perfect example why we get taxed to the hilt, but somehow some communities don't get to pay. So basically what this is telling me is that we're going to tax you, you, and you, but you don't get the benefit of it.
Yeah, but I don't know, and you may be entirely correct. I don't know that there's any kind of a nexus between the California Street illustration you used and Prop 6 and the funding. I don't know that.
There is no nexus. The point I was trying to make is that despite all the taxes that we pay every time we fill up gas, state of California didn't pay for that thing, we paid for it. And somehow Redlands didn't get to pay for it. So that's the issue we have with being overtaxed. I'm being taxed so someone else can benefit, but I don't get a benefit from it. Now, we can take it more philosophically and say, in socialism, that's okay, because I have an education, I make more money, I get to tax more so the state can help the poor. And if that's your philosophy, then that's fine.
Well, I'm
But this is a regressive tax.
You know,
This is
I'm-
by any measure a regressive tax. So if you're into socialism, it's not even good.
Yeah, and that's what the point I was about to make, is now we have transgressed from a local proposition here to a philosophy of socialism or whatever your other option would be.
Where else do you want to
There's no reason
discuss
for
it?
us to go there. Let's vote on this thing and go home.
Do you know that they have their own special DMV office?
The
The
what-
legislature? California legislature
don't
have a
have to go to the
special
DMV.
DMV office.
I don't go to
in-
DMV, I
in
go
or
to
about
AAA.
Near the Senate chamber, or the chambers up there. No waiting, nothing, they just walk right in. That's probably part of where this tax is going to.
Yeah,
Motor-
but we don't
go
know
to motor
that.
vehicle
We don't know
tax.
that.
I don't know where it's going, but he's exactly right, is what's happening. These propositions never say this is dedicated solely for this and won't move.
Prop 6 will.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. But in general, they don't. And it's a smokescreen. And he's 75 million or whatever, it's ridiculous.
Well,
And you, of all people,
I'm-
a socialist, you should be happy he's right.
Socialist. See,
Well,
now
I'm
I'm being
sorry.
labeled as I'm going to be communist next time.
I don't mean that. I
Pretty
don't mean
soon
that.
I'm going to be part of the Russian
I'm being
government and
facetious.
for Donald
I'm being
Trump.
facetious, but based on watching your stands over the last few years,
Yeah.
I would think that you would be happy to get rid of a very regressive tax.
No, and what I'm acknowledging, there was no staff report on this, or was there? Maybe I missed that one too. Well, it's okay. I don't want to read it now. It's too late.
Here's the thing, this is what I've encouraged.
All I'm saying is that I am not supportive of the perception, and believe me, I've lived in a community professionally where any tax is a bad tax, and any way I can escape paying a tax, I'm going to. I've lived in that world, and I think it's fundamentally a violation of ethics, of being a good citizen and a participant in our governance process. Now, having said that, clearly there is mismanagement and overtaxation in areas. I understand that. I'm not totally naive, but I'm not willing to move to one extreme or the other. I want to evaluate the data, evaluate the proposition in this case before I make a judgment. And so this has blindsided me because, which is my fault. I wasn't here
Yeah,
last month.
And November 6th comes and goes.
And November 6th comes and goes. But the whole perception, the whole paranoia and politics of fear, I am done with.
But see, I think you're making a straw man argument there. Not one single person on here said, we don't want any taxes and get rid of all taxes and we're all just going to live in anarchy. Nobody said that, but
No,
you're making
nobody
a
said that.
statement and
No,
making it
I
look
agree,
like
but-
everybody's saying that.
But you implied I'm a socialist, so
I
I
didn't
can
imply it, I said
retort
it.
with that.
There's no,
I'm
there's
just
no
teasing you when I
implication,
said
there's
that. I shouldn't have said that,
identification.
and I withdraw it. I was following on his little comment there, and you're not as, I don't think.
Yeah, no. We're all friends. We're all friends.
Ron, I would ask, as your friend, look into Prop 6. Look it up, read it, look into it, and I'll tell you why.
I will do that.
I don't want to call anybody out here publicly, but, no, listen to me.
I'm
Hold on.
listening.
It is truly a bipartisan thing, and unfortunately, with the way we all operate is we look at, well, there's a majority of Republican groups that are supporting this proposition, so it must be a Republican proposition.
And I didn't even know that.
Well, but it
I
appears
understand.
that way. So if you do some reading and look, you'll see Howard Jarvis, you'll see all these different groups that support it, and you may go, oh, and then you see a predominance of our state legislature that's against it, which also tends to be of one particular party. But I am personally friends with council members in San Bernardino and Colton and Redlands that are, I'm not even going to say, I don't want to even say the party names, but that totally support this because they're coming at it from a different, I see this from League of Cities. League of Cities is in opposition of Prop 6. They're forcing our rep, Laura Morales, to go stand out in front of Stater Brothers and hand out flyers and literature and say bad, 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 except that everybody on our local chapter of the league board, and that includes a lot of non-Republicans, are in favor of Prop 6. And I see it, and I hear it. This, we need to take the.
Does that give
the
you any
partisan-
hints that Northern California is going to take the bulk of the money?
Well, and that's the problem, is down here in Southern California, this seems to be the one issue that we can all kind of agree on. If you take the partisanship out of it completely, and I've heard some presentations on people that, on the legislate, that's how I know the background, and I've read it, I've looked at it, and I just think this is a better alternative, but that's it.
And
Okay.
it should be
Well,
noted that.
just for the record, for the three people that may be still tuned in, I don't view this, and I choose not to view most issues as partisan politics, even though I know partisan politics plays into it. I mean, I am independent. I look at the issues, I look at the data, and make my own decisions. So I get frustrated with this heavy-handed partisanship that our national politics is into, and I reject that. But in this case, I haven't done the same level of homework that other members of the dais have, and I will concede that. So I'm reacting to the general perception of anything that says tax on it is a bad thing that we need to try to evade. And you and I both know that that is a philosophy of a lot of people in our community. And I know, I can name names of people that feel very strongly about that. And I feel a sense of responsibility to try to find some balance in that perspective.
Yeah. And what I was saying, and I'll say it very briefly again, if you've already taxed me for something, don't spend it on something else and tax me again.
No,
That's
and
my
that-
point.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. I can't argue with that point.
And I think we should note that the people who are opposed to this, so we're like in a minority.
Opposed to Prop 6?
6, correct. They want people to vote no on it.
Mhm.
Just to give you perspective of how hard this is going to be for it to pass, just to give you perspective. Raised $70 million in a campaign to make sure the thing dies, because there's too much, we're talking about billions of dollars that could be spent. There's a lot of interest groups that would love to have access to that money. Do you know how much money the committee who put this together have in the bank right now? $70,000. So we're talking about Goliath and David here. And
Okay.
unfortunately, this time Goliath is going to win. So it's the least that we can do to tell our residents that this is something where they have an opportunity to reverse a tax that we believe is unfair.
Okay. I promised Deanna that I wouldn't keep us over past 10 o'clock, and I'm already in trouble with her, so let's vote.
Impeach, impeach, impeach.
Yeah, fair enough. Bring it on.
Okay, so was there, it's been so long, I can't, did we have a vote? I mean, did
We
we have,
did.
we had a motion and a second. Okay, so I hope there's no more discussion. Is there anybody opposed?
So you
Okay.
moved from,
So it passes 4-1.
As you predicted at the very beginning, right?
Okay, are there any reports of councilmen?
yeah, I have a couple of things. Okay. No, yeah, go ahead.
A couple questions. Number one, the new intersection down there at California and Redlands, who controls the traffic laws down there?
The traffic signal belong to City of Redlands.
Because, you know, they've always had this, when you're coming southbound, it always had a no turn on red because of how bizarre the situation was. But now it's pretty straight one way. I don't see any reason why they still need to have the no turn on red. Is there anything we can?
No right turn on red?
Yeah, no right turn on red. When you're coming southbound and you're going to turn onto Redlands, they still have the sign up for no turn on red. And I can't figure out why they need a no turn on red now.
You may actually get an answer now that their city manager's on leave.
Well, bring it in front of the traffic committee. That's what traffic committee's for.
Yeah. And then the second thing, who's in control of the coyotes around here?
I have seen a few.
They're getting going out of control. I mean, I hear them every night, louder and louder than they've ever been, and they're like, it used to be you'd see one here and there, but now you're seeing like a few packs of them roaming through the city. I don't know who's supposed to be
Coyotes
in
go
charge.
where the kitty cats are.
I know. Well, that's good. I don't like the cats there. But
So the owners of the cats are in control of the coyotes. And I don't know who controls the coyotes, but I control all the chupacabra.
Okay.
Just to let anybody know, whoever's in charge of that, it seems like there's a lot of them around.
We have no control over them, but as the mayor said, they tend to go after cats and small dogs. They also tend to go in cycles. And there's a lot of raccoons and skunks and possums, which is coyote food. So as that cycle kind of works its way down, then the coyotes will, then they'll come back in 3 or 4 years again. We're just in a high cycle. And the one people, you guys are aware of this, but just for the 3 viewers, people forget is, we think we're in Loma Linda and this is a city because we have sidewalks and curb and gutter. There is no place in the city that's more than 5,000 feet from the wilderness. And those animals come in out of the wilderness to forage.
Well, mine, trust me, I saw one yesterday, and we're not in the wilderness. We're smack in the heart of the city. So it's probably, they have access to the drainage ditch there by the railroad track. I think that's where they're living. But I saw a really big one last night. I mean, if you were out there walking, you'd be petrified. So clearly, we need to try to see if we can let the sheriff shoot them.
We can't
Hunting season.
stop them.
So you know that there are other cities and communities that have had issues with mountain lions, things like that. Actual mountain lions in your backyard trying to get into your house. If an on-duty sheriff's deputy kills a mountain lion, that is a major no-no with the state of California. And you'll have Fish and Game come down and threaten to put you under
But
arrest.
coyotes okay?
I don't think so either.
Coyotes are protected. Yes.
Oh, really?
They're considered wildlife and they are protected.
Oh,
The same as the
Well,
the
we'll pass an ordinance.
burros.
We'll make it legal. It's okay. Anyway, I just wanted to, a couple quick things. I want to thank staff, especially Jarb and Conrad, for allowing us and organizing a tour that Mayor Rigsby and Mr. Daly and myself attended at the beginning of this week. We had the opportunity to spend an hour inside the new hospitals being built. And it's an amazing, amazing experience to watch such a huge building take shape. And we had a construction management firm walk us through the various floors. And of course, if we had more time, we probably could have spent all morning there. It's fascinating.
The detail involved is
It's an amazing experience. So I would encourage all the other council members, if you have an opportunity, because I think they're going to try to do the tour again maybe in a few months to see the progress. But it is this coming Friday? Oh,
Well, you better do it soon. The topping off ceremony for the girders is December 11
Yeah.
is scheduled, but they'll have to finish it and to hit that deadline, so, yeah.
yeah, but it's moving pretty fast, but it is a fascinating building, so I would encourage any of you to attend that. The only other thing I was going to talk about is, if any of you have noticed, you're going to see the big Antonov airplanes flying into our airport recently. You're going to see a lot more of them. They're the world's largest cargo airplane. Interestingly enough, the two companies that are involved is Ukrainian, and the other one's actually Russian. So it was kind of cool to actually talk to some of the Russian crews. I actually had a conversation. Yeah. I got to tell you, folks, there's what I'm about to tell you will kind of blow you away, but after this, I'm very active there, and I'm promoting the airport, and I had a conversation with one of their main directors. He's based in Houston, but our airport is an ideal place for many of the things they do. And one of the things they do, believe it or not, this will blow you away. One of their biggest contracts that the Russian company has is with the U.S. military. So our military equipment gets moved around by the Russians all over the world.
Since November of 16?
Well, November 16?
Since November of 16?
No, it's been going on forever, actually. So no matter what you read on the news, we actually do a lot of work with the Russians on a federal level and a state level. But the exciting part for us is that they've chosen our airport for many reasons, but it's helping us. We've probably sold several $100,000 worth of fuel. We're having to bring in extra personnel. We have a company on the airport that now process the cargo that's employed with employees that are doing it. And there's opportunities for us to do more with them. In fact, the exciting part of this conversation I had with this gentleman is they have a daily international cargo flight. That's a 747 that comes from China into LAX. And he says, what can we do to bring that flight over to your airport? Well, we've been working on that. We have lots of challenges. We can take care of them. The challenge we have is the federal government is not cooperating. We're not getting the officers we need to process that flight. But clearly, LAX has way outgrown its capability to serve people. It's extremely expensive. To give you perspective, there's cargo that flies into LAX today that takes 7 days to clear customs. So it's gone to the point where companies, and more specifically Chinese companies to be exact, have offered it's faster for them to ship the cargo by truck from LAX to us, ship them back to LAX, so then they can get on another airplane and go across the United States, wherever they need to go. That in itself would be faster and cheaper than for them to sit there at LAX. So the opportunity that we have at the airport is humongous when it comes to cargo. So I just wanted to let the two people who are left not asleep know about it.
We're going to wait out those two people. We're going to keep going. Okay, any other reports of officers? Okay, then the city council is adjourned, and we have our successor agency. Are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Any comments from the public? Hearing none. Consent calendar.
Move it.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any opposition? Hearing none. It's approved. We're adjourned. We go to the Housing Authority. Any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Any comments from the public? Is this a comment from the public?
I'd like to make it just as soon as you adjourn.
And
Okay, so no comments from the public on the Housing
On
Authority?
the Housing Authority, I do have one quick comment.
Okay.
We're coming to the end of the large project on Van Leuven, which is beautiful, by the way. I'm getting a lot of very positive reaction to it. I'm just hoping that our role as a city is to just make sure that whoever's managing those units, because it's going to be an affordable housing project, really is involved in making sure they're marketing itself with flyers and what have you. But one of the challenges has been that it's really being focused to basically homeless veterans, which is great. However, we have serious homeless issues in this community, and not everybody may be the type that we may want to move into that project. Otherwise, what looks like a beautiful project turns into a a nightmare. So we just want to make sure we as a city staff really keep a close eye on who's ever managing that to make sure they manage it properly, because it's a beautiful, beautiful complex. It's on Van Leuven. If you get a chance to drive by it, it'll make Loma Linda stand out like you wouldn't believe it.
It's the
beautiful.
one that we approved, and then it got bought
Yes,
by the.
you have to thank you, Conrad, for saying no to everything that they ask.
Yeah.
They want to
They
change
asked at
it.
every turn to cheapen the project, and we said,
And
no, no, no,
It's turning
no,
out to
no."
look just as beautiful as we approved it. So now it's a matter of making sure they manage it right, so.
Okay. So is there a motion on the consent calendar?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any opposition? Hearing none. It's approved unanimously. Any other member reports? Any reports of officers? Hearing none, we're adjourned. That's the last of our agendas, but we're holding it open for one more comment.
Just two quick things. First of all, I wanted to get up and talk during the pharmacy situation because as you know, I was on the Board of Trustees of the university for 22 years. 10 of those years, I urged that we start a school of pharmacy. And finally, I had the opportunity to make the motion to start our school of pharmacy. And I'm so proud of that school doing so well. Secondly, I know you were all asking about our new carts, so.
Okay.
That you should all have new carts.
Hey,
And they're great for pencil holders, for candy holders, to give to your kids or your grandkids.
How much is the fee, monthly fee for this size?
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
This one you can't afford.
That's great.
So, I didn't want to bring it up publicly, but don't you get a free replacement of your cart? Anyway. Yeah, but we're going to put all new ones. Right, no, I get that, and they need to be branded and everything, but you don't want to say that in public, but I think you get, is it like every year you can get them replaced or something?
Well, they just move them around when you do
Because
that.
I called, now.
They just move them
I can't
around.
remember if it was CR&R or Republic, but I called one time and they told me on the phone, customer service people, oh, you can get new bins every year if you need them.
Yeah,
I
but
won't
they,
say that in
but they,
public, 'cause
but they
then
give, they give mine to you.
Huh?
They give mine to you.
Your old ones?
Yeah, they're not necessarily new. They
Oh,
just,
no, mine are new.
they circulate them around.
Did they fix this one out here? I mean, I haven't been past it in a while, but,
Yeah, they said they fixed it.
yeah. Because the top of it was laying out on the ground.
I was here last Sunday. Past Sunday, we had electronic waste pickup.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good.
Well, I have to say that I think the pharmacy students regret not staying for this.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I tell you,
They,
it was an absolute thrill to me because I used to work for a pharmaceutical company.
yeah.
And while my wife was in dental hygiene, I worked for a pharmaceutical company and I called on every pharmacy, introduced LASIK to Loma Linda University and all of San Benito County.
And do you remember why they named it Lasix?
Yeah, it's had something to do with the fact that how often you have to get up.
After you take Lasix, you have an extreme urge to urinate for 6 hours. So it lasts 6 hours, so they called it Lasix. And that's not a joke.
See you, but we want to send greetings to Cheryl. Thank you. So, for sure. Okay. I haven't seen her for a while.